hands up. There it is, you got it.
Okay, today's date is June 18th, 2015 at 5:30. I'm calling this meeting to order for appointment subcommittee. Following the agenda, first on the agenda, the approval of the minutes.
We still have the previous two that I submitted and everyone has, but I can't remember the dates of them.
Okay.
And then the new ones I'm still working on because it was the last meeting, so I'll have for the next meeting.
Okay, move to accept the last two that Joe gave to us.
Right.
Second?
The dates are on them, yes.
All right, any discussion? Amendments? All in favor of accepting the minutes? Aye. Against? So moved. Okay, 3-0. Moving on to public speak time. Is anybody here during our committee meeting that would like to speak to us on something other than the interviews that we will be starting with very shortly? Okay, there being none. All right. Jane, if you could please escort our first...
Can I have a question?
Hold on.
Quickly. So would you like the subcommittee going to read the questions and do you want to alternate 1, 2, 3?
Yeah.
So, okay.
I'll start you and then...
Great, okay.
And then we'll we'll work right through the list. Does that sound good to you? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I guess my are the candidates going to sit here?
Yes.
Yeah, because of the camera, Tim. I don't know if you heard James.
Oh, that makes sense. And then, at this point, are we aware of the different because this one has all the names right now?
No, and that's only
Right.
for us.
Jane put
This is
this
just
together,
for
so
us.
when we have
Okay, I
our
just
final
saw that
meeting,
yours was right there. I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, it's just for us.
Come on, Joe.
You shocked me last night. You're still in shock. So many shocks this week. Oh my God.
It's like that, right?
Oh my God.
Okay.
Zagorski, right?
Yeah, our
Yeah,
first
yeah,
our
yeah.
first candidate is David Zagorski. Jane, thank you.
Just to be clear, we're not allowed to ask any other questions than someone else is that you guys are asking. We're not asking anything.
Jane said it could be a follow-up if it's like to expand upon an answer. But it's just- How you doing?
Hi, good evening.
I'm Joe McCoy, Council President. Nice to meet you.
Joy Winnie, Chair of Appointments.
I'm Tamara Smith. I'm also on the appointments.
Okay. Well, welcome, David. Thank you for coming in this evening. Thank you. As you know, we're interviewing candidates for the position of Principal Assessor for the City of East Hampton. This is a full-time position, 34 hours a week. The work schedule is Monday through Tuesday, 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. The work schedule is Monday through Tuesday.
I'm applying.
No, you haven't let me finish. The work schedule is Monday and Tuesday, 7:30 to 5, Wednesday, 8 to 6, and Thursday, 8 to 5. This position also requires some evening and weekend work for inspections as needed, and the board meetings which are required for you to attend. So this position supervises 2 part-time clerical employees. This interview will be filmed per our city council meeting bylaws, as this is a posted open meeting. We have a series of questions that we're going to be asking all of the candidates, same questions, and at the end of these questions, you'll have the opportunity to add anything you would like and to let us know, or if you have any questions of us, to ask us at that point. Okay? So I'm going to begin with describe your qualifications as they relate to the principal assessor position.
Well, I've been in the assessing field for going on 14 years. I started off as an assessor clerk in Hatfield in 2001. Worked my way up the ladder. 2008, I became Director of Assessments in Granby, and I've been in the head position since then. So I've had about 6, 7, 8 years of department head, principal assessor, whatever the title is. Every town is different experience. So I've been through 3 revals. I have experience managing a department of at least two employees, and so I'm experienced.
Well, thank you.
Why do you want to leave your current position, and what attracted you to this position?
I'm actually not fully employed right now, so gainful employment is a big motive. But basically, I've been looking for this position to open up for quite some time. I actually had applied back when Cindy had left, and at that time, I don't think I had the experience, but I feel that I do now.
So just to follow up quickly, so you're at Granby now, but it's
No. Right now, I'm doing data collection for Auburn.
Okay.
And that's only like a contracted position just until the end of the fiscal year. They just had some extra money and they were behind on their data collection, so they hired about 3 or 4 people to come in and help them out.
Okay, describe in detail your experience with vision software or any comparable assessing software.
I've had experience with all the softwares: Vision, Patriot, Point Software, and the state camera system. I actually like Vision the best. I had used it in Granby. So it's been a few years since I've used it, but I know not much has changed other than some upgrades and things like that nature. So, but I do have experience with it, and I do like it the best.
Are you maintaining your MMA through required continuing education? I'm sorry. How would you describe your experience and relationships with the various division of Department of Revenue, various divisions?
Good. Walter Duza and I, we go way back. No, I have a very good relationship with Department of Revenue. Because a lot of times you need to go to them with questions and things of that nature. So.
Okay. Is there any particular person in the DOR that you've worked closely with, or?
Don Reynolds, I've worked with. He's mostly a tech person, but with the state CAMA system, I was always calling him with issues on the software. But Walter Duza, I constantly talk with him on a yearly basis because he is the one that approves your values in your LA3 and your LA10.
The question is, are you maintaining your MMA through required or continuing education? This question, and what courses have you taken to do so?
Yes, I have my MAA. I've taken the required courses 1 through 5. I have actually just recertified this past year. I took the USPAP course online, out of pocket, and I had a few credits short, so being on the board, I asked if we had money to send me to the spring conference. So they sent me to that. I got the extra the credits that I needed, and I've since recertified. So
when you say recertification, were you certified before?
Yeah, you have to recertify every 3 years.
So the first time certification was how long ago was it?
2007.
You were certified as a
Yep.
recertified.
Yep.
Please give us an example of when you've gone above and beyond your job duties.
Above and beyond. I know when I started in Granby, they hadn't had anybody in the office for quite some time, and there was a stack of motor vehicle and chapter land applications, and they were still doing everything by hand, writing out certificates and everything. One of the first things I did was create an access program to computerize all that so that they could just data entry it and then print out reports and certificates and things of that nature.
So this position requires some evening and weekend work. Is that going to be a problem?
Not at all.
So a lot, we talk about recognizing trends and things like that, and then what kind of, are there any tools you might have to recognize something, either economic or assessing trends, or can you give me an example where you maybe noticed some trends as far as, to analyze sales and things of that sort? I didn't write that.
Yeah, I'm trying to wrap my head around it. Can you read it one more
So the
time?
question was, do you recognize economic trends in the market to analyze sales trends?
Yeah, you're looking at sales, depending on what town, you're looking at the sales. You can see that ranches are consistently selling at such and such a rate, so that's going to affect the values on other ranches. And that's just an example. But yeah, basically you would look at trends through sales. I don't know if that's that answers that, but.
Okay. As this position requires extensive interaction with individuals from all levels, how would you handle the following issues? In the first one, in a board meeting, you're discussing an abatement and one board member is adamantly against the abatement.
Basically, it's trying to find out what their position is, why they're against it, and try and talk with them. If it's a warranted abatement, then it's the best to try and talk with them and try and get them to understand. But sometimes, they're firm, so you just have to leave it to the vote. So.
Okay. And then the second one is a citizen comes into the office extremely upset about a fee that she was incorrectly charged, but the appeal period has passed.
I think recently we've had a few cases where in the office here, people were charged income and expense, late fees for vacant land, which shouldn't even, for residential vacant land, they shouldn't have even gotten the income and expense. In a case like that, we can abate. Generally, for a real estate abatement, though, I'm sorry that this happened. Unfortunately, there is a time period in which to act on that. There's nothing that we can do. I don't want to say there's nothing that we can do, but unfortunately, the time period has passed for us to act on that. What I would do is take notes on the situation and make sure that it's corrected for the following year.
So, David, if offered this position, when would you be available to begin?
I can start right away.
And then, big one. So do you have any questions for us as far as our role, or maybe, I know we have other people in the city here, I don't know if they can answer, but any questions in general for us?
Well, I've been on the board for 10 years, so I'm familiar with the situation of what's going on. And I think one of the main strategies is just trying to clean up the mess that's down there. Work with other departments to try and make sure that it doesn't happen again. Get a reasonable filing system in place. The office training, I know I had spoken with Kim this morning to try and get a sense of everything. And one of the things that she had said was that the office training, she would ask Mark, what happens after such and such, and he would say, you don't need to know. And I don't think that's really good. It's like we're all in this together. There's certainly training. It's helping one another, because somewhere down the road, the person in that position could be sick or out, and you need somebody to fill in that shoes. So.
Cross-training.
Right, exactly. You don't want to hold somebody back,
Do you have any other questions for us, David?
What's your timetable that you're looking at?
For hiring?
Yeah, is there a second interview process?
No, we are going to do all 3 interviews tonight.
Okay.
And hopefully, all 3 members of the subcommittee are here, and hopefully we'll be able to discuss the candidates tonight and be able to make our decision tonight
Okay.
to give to the full city council. Full city council will be the final vote.
Okay.
We are only the subcommittee, we only make our recommendation to the
Right.
full council.
Right.
Full council of the 9 members make the vote,
Right.
so,
And they're meeting again next week?
July 8th.
July.
July 8th, so nothing will really happen before then. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's, were you gonna say something?
Is that correct? That nothing will be between us and the appointment, the final appointment? If we authorize a candidate, we will probably authorize, when we subcommittee votes, then we put it into HR's hands to go forward.
Okay. And just throwing that out there, I want to see the office, get back in shape, so I'm willing to do whatever, whether that be come in on Fridays on my own dime, or, if a decision is made, but it still has to go to the city council, will you let that person know? Basically what I'm getting at is if I was told by the subcommittee, we want to hire you, and it has to go to the city council, I would come in to talk with Christine and kind of see what.
Well, you would first come in and talk to HR.
Okay. All right. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah, you're getting ahead of yourself.
I'm just,
The first person in line that anybody that we recommend for hiring will have to come in and speak with HR to
Okay.
make sure all of their paperwork and everything is all in order, and
Okay.
that they get a copy of our policies, our rules, our regulations, employment
Right.
policies and things like that, which is really important. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
okay.
So if you don't have any other questions, do you?
No, I mean, like I said, the main thing is just, I had talked with Kim and got a rundown of the issues in the office and everything, so I'm just looking to get it cleaned up. So, and if I can do anything to help, then select me. Okay.
We appreciate it. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, David, for coming in. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Same here.
Take care. Thank you.
George? I think other counselors can ask questions as long as they're following up on the questions that are on the paper. Okay? I'm sorry, I don't think that's right. If there's a question here about something and we want to follow up on that exact topic, why can't we ask that question? We are counselors, we have an equal vote to everybody. Is there a reason why you don't
We
want
do
us to
have
do
a
that?
quorum of the city council here.
We're asking questions, we're voting on anything.
Right, and so there would be no deliberation between, I think that's the biggest that we can't
But we're not deliberating, we're asking questions. I'm not debating with JP about something, I'm asking if there was a question that you guys, that I thought might have been pertinent to the question that's in here, why can't I ask that? I don't understand why I couldn't.
We've never done that before in any of the interviews. When we did
I
the
don't remember
interviews
that.
for Val, we didn't have anybody else following up on any of our questions. It
I'm
was
not
just,
asking about what happened before, I don't know.
well, I'm just following protocol as to what we've done before, Dan. So,
I wasn't going to engage you in discussion with Dan. I was just going to ask a question, and I raised my hand to ask. And that was a follow-up on what, it sounds like this gentleman had some experience with our system and had some ideas about what, I was going to ask him, what were the 3 top things you would do when you got here?
But
And that
if
would
you
be-
asked that question
As a
of
follow-up
that
to
one.
then we would have to
I would have asked the same
everybody.
question of all of them.
That I understand we can't do, but if there was a question for instance, you asked, who do you know? And somebody asked to follow up, what are the names of the persons you know in the Department of Revenue? If you hadn't asked that and I asked it, why not? I'm asking something pertinent to the question that was there. And I don't understand why I can't participate in this. This is disturbing me, so, okay. You guys you're the chair of the committee, and I respect that, but I think we are all counselors. I can understand not allowing administration to ask questions. I understand that, but we're counselors, we're gonna make votes. And I wanna make sure that we haven't forgotten something that maybe you guys didn't think of, that's all.
Yeah, but then again, I don't want anybody to get off of the interview questions either.
You could cut me off, Jake, you cut me off. If I said something that wasn't pertinent, I could be cut off. I'm just saying, if they answered, I can't work on weekends, and I wanted to say, why not? I mean, why not? I wanted to make sure that the questions are asked.
Joy,
I don't even know if I'll have any. I'm just saying, why can't if I think of something?
I think an example, and I could be wrong, but in this case, he answered his experience and he gave a job that was not on his resume. Dan may have said, that's not on your, we did not see that on your application. Could you elaborate on that?
The
Correct.
Auburn thing.
Correct. Is that what you meant?
Well, that's similar to what I might ask, because that's something you might not have thought of. But it's pertinent to the question, because you asked them what's your experience.
As long as it's that question, it's.
Okay, all right.
Well, I
I just
probably
don't
run
think we
into
should-
now is that because I would be more lenient thinking that wouldn't be as bad, but the problem is now David has left and no one else was asked that. He wasn't asked that question.
Well, no.
But that question was only pertinent to that answer.
It wasn't, I'm
To
not
that
adding a new question.
Right.
I totally
It
agree
was,
with that.
I see what he's saying. It was an answer he provided that was
Based
pertinent
on
to
his
the
answer.
question. But based on his answer, it was a follow-up
A follow-up to the
question
answer.
to the answer.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
if, I
It's
trust
almost
Jane
like
to
a
tell me, I'm sorry, that question can't be asked because it's not on our list.
Okay.
I
It's
trust
basically
her.
a clarification.
A clarification,
not a question.
right.
Right.
I mean,
That's
the
all.
reality is I don't know how you feel, Roy. I mean, we're running really quickly, like 20
We
minutes
are.
per candidate,
And-
so
yeah.
I don't
if we
think it-
wanted to allow that, I'm
Yeah,
fine with
that's,
it.
okay.
And I probably won't say another word because I thought.
Now that I have my way.
But I thought, I thought of something and then I said, oh, well, and then
Okay.
JP wanted to ask a question. I said, well, why can't we ask questions? So,
Okay.
you
All right,
know.
so we can-
But
all right,
JP's
so-
question might have been improper because it was a new question.
It was a new question. So, all right, so let's,
So I saw it as a follow-up to his.
What was your question?
so
I don't even know
what
the
I will
question.
do is,
You lost it.
after they're done answering each question,
Well,
okay?
but
When they're done, I will say,
Any counselors have
any
follow-up?
counselors have any follow-up to the answers?
Okay, sure.
Is that,
Yeah, that'd be great.
okay?
Sure, I
Is that
appreciate
good?
that.
Okay, sure, not a problem. Because I do understand your point, and
Well,
you
one of
could, another mind and another is a good thing, it's not a bad thing, and I get that, so, all right.
For instance, he said in a follow-up question to you guys that he was certified in 2007, and you have to be certified every 3 years. And I remember now, I wanted to ask, so you've recertified in 2010 and 2013, but that wasn't clear to me that he had said that. He said, I just recently got recertified, right? So I wanted to make sure, you've kept it up even all these years.
I didn't get that
Actually,
impression at all.
read his application.
Well, I know, that's why I wanted to ask the question, because I thought that was unclear in his answer, right? Was that, he wasn't clear on that. So that was the question I remember now that I wanted to ask, so I think.
Well, I thought it was clear in that the last time he had had his certification was 2007 and hasn't had it
It's
since
good for 3,
then.
and so,
Oh, he said
So,
that?
I mean,
Did I miss that?
I guess I erred
His
on this
original was
side.
2007.
I thought he just said he was recently recertified.
yeah, and he said he
his
just
original came in
completed in
2007, but that
2015.
doesn't add up to
No,
just-
but you don't have to be certified and maintain that certification, I don't believe, throughout the entire period, only if you're applying for a job that
Yeah,
requires the
that was the
certification,
impression I
you need
had.
the certification.
Well, maybe, all right, well, that would have
It's
been,
not-
this is, I didn't understand.
You get your
his answer.
certification, then it lapses, and then you go back and do it again.
It's a clarification on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Needless to say, that's neither here nor there.
Okay.
Well, we got a lot of time here.
So,
Do we talk about anything else? What's on the council agenda today?
I'll entertain a motion to take a break, and come back into order at, when's our next interview scheduled? 6:15? So we'll take a 10-minute break. We'll come back in at 10 after.
I don't care.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Make the motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We'll turn that camera off for a few minutes.
We can't discuss this. We're still,
Right.
we can't discuss
Talk about
it.
anything else.
Okay, so our next candidate is here, Randall Austin. Jane, if you could, thank you so much. It is. Have a seat in the hot seat. Really, it's not that bad. We're a friendly group.
Take the word for it.
So Randall, I'm Joy Winnie. I'm the Chair of Appointments Subcommittee, City Councilor.
Joe McCoy.
Tamara, I'm also the city councilor and I'm the appointment subcommittee.
And then we have two other city councilors with us.
Three.
Oh, three. I'm sorry.
He didn't retire yet.
That's right. Councilor Hagan, Councilor Rist, and Councilor Kwasinski.
Okay.
And then people on the outside are our mayor, somebody that sits on our board of assessors, Peter Davies, our city finance director, our city auditor, and of course our HR. So, I'm sorry I didn't introduce you all by name, but if you get to this point so anyways, welcome. Thank you for coming in this evening. As you know, we're interviewing candidates for the position of principal assessor for the city of East Hampton. This is a full-time position for 34 hours a week. The work schedule is Monday and Tuesday, 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m., Wednesday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Thursday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. This position also requires some evening and some weekend work for inspections as needed, and the board meetings which will be required to attend when the board meets. This position supervises 2 part-time clerical employees. This interview that we're doing tonight is being filmed for our city council bylaws, as it is a posted open meeting. So we have a series of questions that we'll be asking all of the candidates. And at the end of the questions, you'll have the opportunity to let us know if you have any questions you would like to ask us about the position. And then, and we'll also have the opportunity to add anything else which you think that might need to be added. Okay? So I'm going to begin with asking you to describe your qualifications as they relate to this position.
Okay, well, I've been an assessor for 15 years. I started in the town of Montgomery, and that was on a part-time basis, and then started doing assessing full-time in 2012. And even though it was part-time, I kept up with all the schooling, and I just recently got my MAA 1233. And I know I might have waited just one more to get that 123
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the lingo here. So can you explain what the MMA 123 versus 123 is?
Well, MAA is a Massachusetts Accredited Assessor,
Right.
and that's a certification that you, if you're in this field, hopefully strive to achieve.
Right.
And it's basically an acknowledgement from the state. It's just the number, they're numbered. And when I got mine, I was 1233.
Oh, okay.
So I was just
Okay.
kind of making a joke about.
Oh, okay. Okay. Sorry, I got one over my head. Okay.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Yep.
You said you were, at 2012, you started as an assessor, principal assessor?
Yes.
Principal assessor?
Yes.
And where was that?
Well, it was initially in the town of Dalton,
Oh. And now?
and now I'm in West Springfield
Okay. As a principal assessor?
as a principal assessor.
Okay.
I actually started as the deputy assessor in West Springfield, and then moved on to the principal assessor after the assessor who was there at the time resigned.
Okay?
Thank you.
Why do you want to leave your current position, and what attracted you to this position?
Well, this position is local, and as far as West Springfield goes, trying to be diplomatic, but let's just say I'm not happy in the town of West Springfield, and I'd like to find another location.
Can you describe in detail your experience with vision software or any comparable assessing software?
Sure, I actually started out with Patriot,
Okay.
but in the town of West Springfield, they have Vision. And so I've been using it the last 3 years.
Okay.
And databases in particular are what I feel are one of my assets. I started a long time ago in automotive parts, and I just always seemed to have a knack for databases. And in my other career as a credit counselor and housing counselor at Cambridge Credit Counseling, if you saw my resume, I also dealt with the databases there, and I just seemed to have a knack for them, and picked right up with Vision. I actually like Vision a little bit better than Patriot. It's, in my opinion, a little bit more versatile than Patriot. They both have their pluses and minuses, but I think at this point, and maybe it's because I've been using it more frequently on a daily basis, I think I like Vision a little bit better.
So how would you describe your experience and relationships with the various divisions of the Department of Revenue?
Of the Department of Revenue?
Yeah,
Okay. Actually, if you don't mind, who do you have for a Department of Revenue rep?
You know? Peter?
Terry?
Well, you mean for the assessors?
For the assessors, right.
Sandra.
Sandy, okay, and that's the same one, or Joe Barbieri, I think is the other DOR rep. So I know both of them, and I've worked well with them.
Are you maintaining your MMA through required continuing education, and what courses have you taken to do so?
Well, I just recently received my MAA back in April, and there is a continuing education requirement. So every 3 years on your birthday, you have to show that you've gotten 30 credits. And there's different ways that you can get them, either by going to the school at UMass. They have a school the first full week in August every year. And you can go to a class there, although I've completed all of the classes. Actually, there are still other classes that I could take to further my education assessing-wise. But there are also different meetings, and when you have the meetings, there's a certain amount of credits that you can receive for the presentations that are happening. So that's 2 different ways that I can go about maintaining that. I probably have 6 credits already toward it for the different meetings that I've attended. But I would continue to do that, and also, as I said, attend UMass, where they have additional courses that go a little bit above and beyond the core requirements for your MAA.
Please give us an example of when you've gone above and beyond your job duties.
When I've gone above and beyond my job duties. Well, we are doing, in the town of West Springfield, we're doing data collection. And part of the data collection is hopefully getting inside the houses. And some people are put off when they find that you want to come in and do an internal inspection on their house. And many times they're willing, but you have to accommodate their schedule. And that means sometimes going out on the weekend. So I've done that to accommodate people above and beyond. I could feel Saturday or Sunday, just whatever's more convenient to them, because I value value being able to get in for an internal inspection, because there's really a lot of things that can change over the years, and if you don't have the opportunity to get inside, you don't have the opportunity to have your data correct. So I feel strongly that I don't want to over-assess anyone or under-assess. If you have something, you should be paying it, and if you don't have something, you shouldn't be paying for it. So.
Anything from? Yeah. So this position, well, you kind of touched on it. This position requires some evening and weekend work, and is that a problem?
No, that's not a problem, and that's something that I believe any assessor realizes that it's going to be part of the job. For instance, when you're setting your budget, and there are meetings, and the meetings are usually after hours, and so that means that you're going to have to attend the meeting in case there are any questions about your portion of the budget.
Okay.
Do you recognize economic trends in the market to analyze sales trends? Is that something you used?
Yes, it's something I use. I do a lot of data analysis. That's another one of the things that I feel is one of the strong points of what I have going for me. I'm very familiar with Microsoft Office Suite, so Outlook and Word, Excel, and Microsoft Access, and I use those tools. And actually, that's another reason why I like Vision, because Vision has a better way to export data so that you can put it into a spreadsheet and manipulate the data and do your analysis. It makes it a lot easier. So between that and other tools that are available, because you need to basically be reviewing all of your sales. And in my town, or where I'm currently at, West Springfield, we have an MLS, multiple listing service, and that's something that you can go on and you can look at all of the listings. Well, they don't allow assessors to look at the current listings, but after it's been sold, then you're allowed access. So when people don't want to let you in the house, and you of course want to make sure your data is accurate, it's a great tool to be able to use, because they usually have 30 some odd pictures of the exterior and interior of the house.
So if you're trying to hide your taxes, don't even delete Facebook.
You know, there's a lot of other things that are out there between Zillow and Julia.
Oh, yeah.
And so even though you can't get access to current listings through MLS, there's still ways to get around that. So you can monitor current, things that are put up for sale. Not everything sells, but, occasionally you'll get the opportunity to get those inside photos and make sure that you have things correct. I said before and say again, I believe strongly in the internal inspection and making sure that your data is accurate. There's a 9-year cyclical inspection that you're supposed to do, a cyclical program that you're going to be doing. I don't know where you are in yours, but the Department of Revenue is something that's required, and I strongly believe in that. After starting in the town of West Springfield as a data collector, and going out and going door to door and doing inspections, and I was amazed at how many differences I was finding. So,
Okay, guys.
so many people it's really when you see how much is out there, and really I'm not going to be satisfied until I have put the tape measure on every house to know that, okay, this is accurate. There's a lot of things that happen. We're supposed to get tipped off by the building permit, but not everyone knows that in every circumstance you need to get a building permit. And it works both ways. A lot of times you're finding something, but just because the assessor comes by does not mean that your value is going to increase. One of the things that I found is a finished basement. Finished basement by 1980 standards compared to 2015 standards are a far cry from being the same thing. And so that's why it's great to get inside, because you might be paying for a finished basement, and yet, the paneling that you put up on the studs and painted the floor, well, that's not really, in my opinion, a finished basement. So, again, just because the assessor is showing up doesn't necessarily mean your value is going up. But I'm a strong believer in having the data accurate.
Okay. As this position requires extensive interaction with individuals from all levels, how would you handle the following issues? The first one, in a board meeting, you're discussing an abatement, and one board member is adamantly against the abatement.
Well, in an abatement circumstance, there's usually a particular reason why the homeowner feels that they're overvalued. And so what you need to do is give it serious consideration and look at it, and then hopefully the facts speak for themselves. So if you have someone that is opposed to the abatement or granting the abatement, hopefully you're going to be able to back that up with your data and say, okay, yes, but this is not in this condition, it's really in a little bit lesser condition, if that was the case. Or regardless, as I said before, it's not fair to not pay for something that you do have, and it's not fair to pay for something that you don't have.
Okay, my second one is a citizen comes into the office extremely upset about a fee that she was incorrectly charged, but the appeal period has passed.
If the appeal period has passed, there's really not much you can do. What I would do in that circumstance is I would inform them of the rules that as of January 1st, when your first actual bill goes out, there's 30 days to file for an abatement. And if that was not done, that's unfortunate, and there's nothing that I can do to grant an abatement in this case, but what I would offer to do was go out and look at the property and address the situation right now so that before the next fiscal year starts, it's correct and it's not a situation where they have to remember next year to apply for an abatement. Let's fix it now.
Okay.
Dealing with people, part of my background is the counseling background. So I was a certified financial counselor, certified housing counselor, certified in foreclosure intervention and default. So a lot of counseling in my background, and I have found that it really works well with this situation. One of the things that I always say regarding assessing is that on this end, it's never personal, but on the other end, it always is, because it's your bill that you're paying and it's your house. It's always personal. So I try to operate my department on what I call a do unto others basis. So I'm always trying to put myself in the other person's shoes and not disregard or have a preconceived notion, no, you're wrong. I want to listen to the person and make them understand, and hopefully, there's no way that you're going to have everyone like you. Not everyone is going to be your friend, and you're not in the assessor's office to win any popularity contest. It's just not going to happen. But if you can make people talk to them and make them understand where you're at and why you feel the way that you do, and hopefully you're correct. Most of the time I find, and I've averted many abatements, and especially going through the data collection process, people's value goes up and then they come in, and if you can explain to them and talk to them, most of the time you can avert the abatement, or at least hopefully make them understand. Not all the time are they happy, but hopefully they respect and understand your point of view and what you're saying.
So, if you're offered this position, when would you be available to begin?
I would want to be able to at least give a 2-week notice to the place that I'm at right now.
That's a good last question. Do you have any questions for us?
Well, you have vision for your software, but you also have a billing software. Who is your billing software provider? Is it Point? Is it SoftWrite? Is it
Anybody else?
KBS.
KVM.
Yes, okay, because that's one I'm not familiar with, but
There's very
again,
few in the state.
yeah, databases are my thing, so I should be able to.
Anything else?
Take your time.
Yeah,
You got plenty of time.
when I get in my
Take
car and I
that.
start driving home, they're all
That's
gonna
okay.
come.
Yeah, I know, it's okay, but that's what we're saying, we've got time, deep breath. We're here to help answer any questions that you might have. Are you familiar with East Hampton, are you?
Yes, I'm familiar with
Okay.
East Hampton, and I have relatives that live in East
Okay,
Hampton.
okay.
And I've lived in the area.
I'm just prompting you with some questions, general questions, to maybe just see if you maybe,
So you have a split tax rate?
no,
No? Okay.
that we do know.
No.
Yeah, no, we have one rate for
Okay.
everybody, residential and,
Do you have districts?
5. Oh, you mean political district?
no, one city, no.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
just assessing wise.
Yeah, no.
I'm sorry,
In
I
terms
didn't
of
understand the
quality,
question.
or?
Well,
No, he's
for
talking about
instance-
like a fire district or a
Fire
water
Right, when I
Yeah.
was in, when
No.
I was in Dalton, they had a
Yeah.
fire district. And
Yeah.
it's like the fire department is sort of its own little town, its own entity, has its own budget.
Since you brought it up, what is your opinion on split rate or flat rate type?
I don't think we can.
No,
answer
can't
questions.
ask that unless we
Can
ask
we?
Since you
everybody.
brought it up?
No.
Okay.
We'll
It's a
get
good
that
question,
opinion.
but we didn't
We'll
put
get
it on
that
the sheet.
opinion when it comes from the board. So, anything else you think you might wanna,
I do have another question,
okay?
but let me preface this by saying it's nothing personal, and I'm just curious, but the pay scale that you're offering seems, because I keep track of stuff like this, seems like it's on a lower end for a town of this size.
Well, I think I will let our HR person answer that one.
Our pay scale is a 9, we have 9 steps in our pay scale. It's, except, it's been how many years now? 2 years?
It was a couple of years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, the last one was probably about.
So I certainly mean no offense, but
It's not West Springfield's pay scale.
Right.
But it's also not West Springfield size.
Springfield is a lot
And
bigger than us.
As far as commercial property and such goes, so,
Mhm.
yeah. So we're much
And I
smaller.
presume split tax right there.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, when I was in the town of Dalton, they also did not have a split tax rate. And coming into the town, the last thing I wanted to do was try and shake things up, and I would follow the same policy here. I'm not looking to change the world when I go into anywhere. I kind of want to see how it works, and then if I feel something can be improved, then I would make a suggestion. But they had a high tax rate, and I felt it was possibly something that they should entertain. But one of the things that held me back is that they had very big business and very small business. So they have Crane Paper, and Crane Paper provides the paper for the currency, and that's a very big business. And then they have a lot of mom and pop stuff. They don't have Home Depot, they don't have, McDonald's and that type of thing. So even though I kind of at first felt that it might be a good idea, it didn't really, I think it was going to have too much of an impact on the smaller businesses to have that type of change, so. And actually, East Hampton, you do have a couple of larger, you've got a McDonald's, but it's not like you have a Home Depot or Lowe's, and you don't have any very large retail centers.
No,
So,
unfortunately, they're not here.
not that there's anything wrong with that.
So, yeah, they're not here. We have mom and pop and
Yeah,
smaller.
and so it's tough because they pay almost twice what the residential rate is, and it's a strain for the small businesses.
And a lot of our manufacturing has gone out of town, obviously, our big.
Yes, I'm familiar with Eastworks. Glad to see one of those buildings
Yeah.
getting used. I thought
Yep.
it was a good idea.
Yeah. Okay.
So I can't think of anything else.
All right. Well, we really appreciate you coming in, Randall. It was a pleasure to meet you. So,
I appreciate the opportunity.
thank you. Thank you for coming in. Thank you.
Thanks again.
Yes.
Thank you. Great.
I don't think it's inappropriate, Madam Chairman. May I ask a question about did we offer a range in the advertisement? So it's the full range from the lowest step to the highest step, dependent on qualification and experience? Who makes that determination as to what we're going to offer? Is that the city council's job, or is it your job?
No, it's HR. The mayor has always done that, negotiating.
Okay. I'm not saying you can't, I just want to know. I'd just like to know. I think he brings up a good point. If we're at the lower end, and I know we did an evaluation of all the positions, it might have been 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, and we tried to determine where we were as comparable communities. And I don't know where this is. But if we want to attract good candidates,
We're
we
not
ought to be able to
comparable
offer
to West Springfield.
No, but we're also, I think we're on the
lower end of
lower end
comparable towns.
of comparable towns.
Well, that could be
we're
negotiable though either, too. I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily mean we're gonna start at the lowest end. Yeah.
We're actually a lot higher than Southampton. And Dan, to answer your question,
And they're also
we
not.
do, your
Yeah.
question is really good. Or we do.
You don't have to be
We-
quiet. I don't want to make them feel like we're being secret around the air, so go
No
ahead.
one's told me I was quiet.
No, you're being quiet. I want everybody to hear what you're saying.
Oh, you can't hear me? No,
I can hear you, but
what I
I
was
don't-
saying was, that was a really good question, but what we do with an application, with an applicant, when it's a successful applicant and we hire, and we offer them position, we base it upon, they don't have to start at step one. As you know, there's 9 steps. We base it on their education, their certifications, their qualifications, and their experience. And that's where they fall on the scale.
Also, too, Dan, remember, this isn't a 40-hour job,
I know.
so it's not even, I would imagine his salary he's receiving for West Springfield is huge. They have split tax rate, and it's probably 40 hours a week. Oh, yeah. Riverdale Road Plus.
Biggie.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the big
I
E.
think
Oh, how about?
the undercurrent of,
So,
No,
That's Agawam.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's Agawam.
I moved right over the bridge.
he did not what?
Do the application, he only sent in a resume.
oh,
Is it appropriate, and tell me if I'm wrong, when you guys deliberate, are you going to be able to give us the references you found about any of the candidates?
Yeah, we were just talking about that, because since some of us had heard them, but since there's not a lot of people who are press here and stuff, I think after everyone's thing,
it doesn't matter, it's all on the
yeah,
tape.
but I mean,
so.
someone.
Well,
Yeah, so she's gonna, Jane will summarize again what the references she's
I think that's important to
Yep.
the deliberation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't know, all the personnel rules now, HR rules are so strict.
Yeah, she will.
What
she
can you
will-
say and what you can't say?
Yeah, because we asked her to do the reference checks on the 3.
And as long as they're not false.
So they're
I mean,
fine.
you're not
Yep.
gonna Tell us something
Yep.
that's not
No, no.
true.
She wouldn't do that.
Good.
All right, when's our next? I think she might even, 7?
7 o'clock.
Can you go out and check, because I think I saw somebody.
I'll do that.
If she's early, we can do it early.
Adjourn for a moment?
You want to, okay,
Yeah,
yep,
I'm not trying to give it, so I was
okay,
just, no, I was just wondering.
motion to adjourn, second?
Second.
All in favor?
No, take a
Aye. Okay, so we're reconvening for our third applicant, Lori Stewart. Lori, hi, please. I'm Joy Winnie, I'm the chair of the equipment subcommittee, city councilor.
I'm Janet Smith.
And we have JP Krasinski, city councilor, Dan Riss, city councilor, and Dan Hagan, city councilor, our HR person, Jane. And we have Peter Davies, who sits on the board of assessors, our mayor, our finance director, Melissa Zawatsky, and you're not expected to remember all of this, honestly. And then our city auditor, Val. Okay, so. Nice to meet all of you. So, thank you for coming in this evening. As you know, we're interviewing candidates for the position of principal assessor for the city of East Hampton. Why don't you take a deep breath and relax. Okay.
I wasn't expecting all this.
Yeah.
Well, this is a city council appointment, so. Okay, so this is a full-time position, 34 hours a week. The work schedule is Monday and Tuesday, 7:30 to 5, Wednesday, 8 to 6, and Thursday, 8 to 5. No Fridays. So this position also requires some evening and weekend work for inspections as needed, and you will be expected to attend the board meetings for the Board of Assessors. You will be required to do that. And so this position supervises 2 part-time clerks and clerical employees. This interview is being filmed and taped. As our city council bylaws, any posted open meetings are taped for the public to review. So we have a series of questions that we're asking all the candidates. And at the end of the questions, you will have the opportunity to add anything else that you would like, and you would also have the opportunity to ask us any questions that might come to mind that you might want to have some more information on. Okay? So I'm going to begin. It's a deep breath. You're okay. Would you like something to drink, or you're all set? Okay.
Thank you.
So, the first question is, would you please describe for us your qualifications as they relate to this position?
I've been performing almost, I don't know if it's similar, but I've been performing as a principal assessor in the town of Southampton for the last 10 years. And when I read the job description, it seemed pretty closely mirrored to what I'm doing now.
Okay. All right. So, Joe?
Most of the stuff obviously is on your resume, but you obviously are MMA certified. I know that was part of the position. Why would you like to leave your?
May I ask a follow-up?
Sure.
Prior to your tenure in Southampton, were you an assistant or had you had assessing
No.
experience prior
No,
to
I
this?
had no experience.
And did you have any other kind of real estate experience?
I was a realtor at one point and an appraiser at one point.
Okay, so you have that kind of experience. Thank you.
Why do you want to leave your current position, and what attracted you to this position?
I've been in Southampton for 10 years, and it's probably just time to move on, to explore something different. And this position came up open. It was close. I'm familiar with the area somewhat. And
Okay.
Can you describe in detail your experience with vision software or any comparable assessing software?
we use Vision in Southampton, so and that's really all I'm accustomed to. That's what I've grown up on, basically. So I'm familiar with it.
Okay.
So, okay. Okay, so relax, Lori, it's
Okay.
okay. You're
I'm
not-
sorry, I wasn't
it's-
expecting
it's-
this.
It's okay, it's okay, it's okay. So, how would you describe your experience and relationships with various divisions of Department of Revenue?
The few people I deal with,
Mhm.
I've had success. You know, I only have a handful of people that I deal with
And
every
they
year.
would be,
My field rep, Sandra Brusso, Walter Duza, and Don DeMary. And those are pretty much the only people that I've dealt with over the years,
okay.
consistently.
And I'm under the understanding that Sandra is for East Hampton also, is that what we clarified earlier? Okay, all right, so you have a good relationship?
In fact, she's the one who told me that this position was open and I should check into it, so.
Ah, okay, all right, okay.
Are you maintaining your MMA through required continuing education, and what courses have you taken to do so?
No, I'm up for recertification, so I usually attend the UMass classes and just anything that comes up in between. I think I'm probably like halfway through my credits for my next recert.
Okay.
Okay, can you give us an example of when you've gone above and beyond your job duties?
I don't know, nothing specific comes to mind. I don't know, I try to be very helpful to other departments when the need arises and whatnot. I tend to be a veteran there at this point, so I get a lot of people coming to my office for input, you know, whether it pertains to my office or actually their office too, so.
I guess it's somewhat limited. How related? How big is your support staff there? Do you have?
I have a part-time clerical.
I guess it's actually.
Yep, so this position obviously requires some evenings, meetings, either with the board or sometimes you'll be called to come into city council. And weekend work, so is this going to be a problem for you?
Probably not. I imagine if there's a break in between, so I could, you know, go home and tend to things.
Yeah. Okay.
I wish we had traded questions. I hate this one. So, okay, there know how to word it. The question is, do you recognize economic trends in the market to analyze sales trends? I guess, especially from your realtor background, I guess they're talking, you know, about looking at market values and how this relates to assessments and appraisals.
Yeah, that's, I don't know, I feel that's pretty much part of the job,
Yeah.
to keep track of all that and follow it.
So follow up for that, how would you access that? What means would you use to gather that information? Where would you look?
I use the MLS most of the time.
Okay.
Right now, to track sales and sell prices and what things are listing for, how long they're on the market.
Okay.
Okay. As this position requires extensive interaction with individuals from all levels, how would you handle the following two issues? The first one, in a board meeting, you are discussing an abatement, and one board member is adamantly against the abatement.
I don't know, I kind of come up, or you just lay the facts out because, you know, it is their decision when it comes down to it. And if everyone has their own thoughts on something, so if it's one board member against two, you know, you can't sway someone. I don't know, it's come up, like I said, you can't sway someone, they have their own mind made up. So the best I can do is present the facts as they are.
Okay. The next scenario. A citizen comes into the office extremely upset about a fee she was incorrectly charged, but the appeal period has passed.
Once again, explain it to them calmly, present the law, because, you know, it's very clearly written, and I found luck with that. If you have something like actual paperwork, just show someone that can usually, you know, suffice and calm it down just a tad.
Okay.
Follow up, would there be any other actions that you would take to maybe, I don't know, for the future, to explain to them that, I don't know.
Oh, I guess so. I guess it would fall under the, you know, the same thing. There are guidelines that need to be followed. So, you know, if it's a 30-day thing, it's a 30-day thing. You know, if it's a, you know, a February 1st thing, it is what it is. You know, and just present them with the actual, you know, law of, you know, written paperwork.
Okay, all right, thank you. Joe?
I think it's you, yeah.
Yeah. So, Lori, if offered this position, when would you be available to begin?
I'm working right now. I would like to you know, give enough notice there. I would probably need a little more than 2 weeks. Probably, like, you know, at least 3, or just to tie up what I have there. I am the only person really in the office there, so I'd like to make sure that they're covered before I left.
Okay.
And now my last easy one. Do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, I do. I know it's a big switch from Southampton. We are a very small town, and you guys are a lot more commercial, industrial base. I guess my question is, what is subcontracted, if anything is subcontracted out? I was under the impression that some things were, that they weren't all handled in-house.
Do you want to answer that, Melissa?
So I'm pretty sure
Oh, Peter, you. Sorry.
that personal property is handled almost exclusively by a contractor, and that we expand some of the data collection stuff to a contract. I believe it's Mayflower, and in revale years when we have more properties to cover. And I'm not sure how in the past they've delegated, like, which properties go to the contractor versus which ones we do in-house. But I know that we've always contracted, especially in revale years, the list and measure stuff, and then I know the personal property is done with Mayflower.
So you do like a cyclical here? Or do you do the measure and list all in, like, 1 year?
I don't believe we do, because,
We do that continuously.
yeah,
That's continuous.
right. But it does have I just noticed in the budget, like, some years it spikes, maybe right as we're getting closer to the revale year.
And we specifically did not open a purchase order for Mayflower in case the newly hired assessor had a preference of another company that they're more familiar with.
Oh, okay. All right. Does this job involve the actual inspections? I noticed, I looked on your that there was a data collector position, but this also involves the field work.
In some cases, yes, it would.
Okay, I just,
Yeah.
I was just a little unclear when I read the job description, like what exactly it entailed, because it seemed like mine was pretty close, but like I do all the field work. But we are a smaller town, so I didn't know if there was.
All right, so Peter, could you kind of,
We do have data collectors that do go out, and if it's a busier time, whenever the principal assessor would go out, and/or if there's any issues that might come up. Some of the issues that have been recently have been, we've had some new construction, some larger properties in town, larger commercial things, some of the old mills being redone, something that needs a little more expertise with it. But as that's going from the building department to us, we've been going out and continuing. I mean, if it's a one-year project, we get partials along the way. So that's something usually the principal assessor would have more experience in going out. And I mean, but usually they probably go out as a team as well. And sometimes we go out with them as well.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was like an actual hands-on position or a more, you know what I mean? I just wasn't sure how it worked here.
Usually the larger projects, right? Like 15 Cottage Street, the data collector usually does all the ones weekly that comes out of what the building department permits that are given. Usually they'll go out and do the weekly ones based on what happens per week in the building department. But the assessor itself would go out on large projects like the Parsons Street, the East Hampton Savings Bank.
But you also oversee, you watch the MLS, you see what closes during the week. And a lot of times that's the time to go in with new people to get the best data. So, I mean, you're familiar with that. I'm sure. And so that's something that the data collector would do. And, but yet the principal might have to do it if it becomes a busy week and it's just, time effective.
we're not going to chain you to the desk.
I was just, being a new town and whatnot, I'm so used to, 10 years in a small town, you get to know your properties and your type of houses and your builders and what's going to be in the house and whatnot, so it was just...
That's fair. Nothing else?
No, I don't think so.
Take a deep breath.
No, I don't think so. What were you looking at as a time frame for a person to start?
We're kind of under the gun. As we...
Has Mark been gone long?
We've had somebody in
okay.
Yeah, so everything's been running smoothly. But we are at the start of the new fiscal year. So we want to have somebody in there to establish evaluations for the FY16. The new residential construction has been visited and the date has been entered. However, we still have a new project on Parsons Street, Parsons Village, that's coming online, and some commercial and industrial properties that still need to be inspected. We need to review the income and expense reports. I'm going off of what Chris had put together for us. Chris is who we have presently down in the office. We need the income and expense reports received from the businesses and the multifamily units to aid in the determination. We need the review of the personal property accounts is scheduled to begin for June 29th. So all the forms of the list and new business certificates have to be readied for the vendor. Contract administration oversight by the principal assessor is necessary to assure proper inspections. Solid valuations to be determined, and the new business equipment brewery. We have some breweries that are coming online, will impact the new growth report. So,
I suspect that negotiable, you guys. For the
and
right candidate.
It's going to be negotiable, and Chris has said that she would be willing to, am I correct in saying that?
I asked Chris if she would be available when the new person comes on to, fill in where she's left off. And Chris has agreed to come in an additional week also. So yes, there would be somebody to...
You're not going to be running into the dark room then.
And it's not a reval year, that's next year?
Yeah.
I can check, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, you missed that one.
Oh, I checked that before I came.
Nah, I don't plan that.
she did her homework. That's good. All right. So, now relax a little bit. Anything else that you think might crop up that you?
You said it's 2 part-time staff?
Yep. Correct.
Okay. Is that the data collector and a?
Correct.
Okay.
And clerical.
What are they, 20 hours a week?
Yes.
2 20s.
No, I can't think of anything.
Well, it's a pleasure.
Very much, Lori.
Well, Lori, it was a pleasure. I relax. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks a lot.
And one way or the other, you'll be hearing from us.
Okay, great.
Very soon. Thank you.
Yeah, for coming by. Thank you.
Okay.
Gotcha. You should relax one more time. I was getting nervous.
I'm sorry. She's just so nervous, the poor thing. I feel bad, you know?
I found it interesting, and I don't know how you would say this to them, that they didn't know they were going to be interviewed by a lot of people. Probably thought it was a one-on-one or something.
That's how most interviews are. I can imagine why you might think that.
Yeah.
Well, see, I haven't had this many people, but I've been at the table where I've been interviewed by 4 or 5 people,
Yeah.
but yeah. So,
Never by such a formidable, you know.
The mayor
That's
is
what I'm
here.
saying, you know, right?
The mayor is in.
she's scary when
You're scary.
Scary. They're all scary. So, I think that it's the hope of the committee that we discuss the 3 candidates and we put a vote on the table tonight to go forward to the full city council for the July 8th meeting. But before we have the discussion, we did ask Jane to do the personal references on the 3 top candidates. So I think without any objection from anybody else that we ask Jane if she would please report out on the personal references and professional references as they put them down on their, and if you research those, and if you could just start with, well, we'll start with the first candidate with David, and then we'll go in the order that we interviewed everybody so that we can kind of keep them all in sync.
Okay, for each of them, I did employment verification of what they listed on their resume, and I did personal reference checks for who they listed on their applications or resumes. For David, his personal references, Roy Bishop was his, and actually Roy was on all 3 as a reference. Roy...
I'm sorry, who's Roy? What is he?
He's a consultant.
Contractor, consultant? Okay.
Similar to Mayflower.
Okay.
He said that, and this came from David's personal reference, that there were some issues at his last position regarding movies. He said that he needs to realize that he can't do that on the job. The Sandra Brusso from the Department of Revenue said he knows about assessing, but he hasn't made the best decisions. There was she mentioned some conflicts in past positions. When I did his employment checks, what I do is when I call in, I ask them to verify the information that's provided on the applications.
Mhm.
So I would say he gave the job title of, and he said he worked from this, and asked him to confirm it. On 2 of the jobs, I said the reason he left was listed as, and both of them said, absolutely not. That's not the true reason for leaving.
Could you expand on that? What- Are you allowed
Expand.
to, well, what did he say on his resume?
Well,
Are we allowed, with the resume is open.
Okay.
Well, you're saying that his resume is
For example, in Hatfield, he said he left because the position was eliminated.
Due to-
Hatfield said, absolutely not, the position is still there.
That's all I meant to ask. Good.
How long
Um,
ago was it that he left Hatfield?
2010.
2010, he said, on his employment history.
Is it possible that the position could have been eliminated for budget reasons?
She said
in
it
the
always
past?
had,
They
she
could-
said it was not eliminated, and still is in existence.
Who did you speak with in Hatfield?
Edwina, she just gave me the name of Edwina in the assessor's office, or in the, excuse me, in the town manager's office. And in another job, they would not clarify, it was just, that is not the reason. He said he was let go for not having MAA, and they said, no, that's not the reason.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm trying to see if there was anything else that, we had another employer say he could not make it to work on time. That pretty much
Okay.
sums up. There were not a lot of positive comments.
Okay. Yeah.
Then we had Randall. Randall, let's see, Mr. Bishop again said that he would put in his time, but that was about it, that there wasn't the extra effort. Mr. Bishop understood that he was leaving because he agreed to get a college degree when he hired on. He signed some sort of agreement with West Springfield that he would have a degree within X amount of time, and he has not obtained the degree.
We, just for clarification, we have not asked for a certain degree, we've just asked for MMA.
She's only talking about why.
Certification, right. Well, I'm just, yeah, okay.
He had, Randall had basically neutral responses. There wasn't a lot of negative. Sandra from DOR said she had some reservations at the beginning, but he seems to be doing okay. She also said that she had heard there was no degree. She said that he has shown some growth. And for Lori,
Could you, you didn't do employment history with Randall? With, this guy. Yeah, Randall.
employment was, West Springfield confirmed that his information was accurate.
So all of his employment history that you could...
Correct.
Accurate, okay, good. Okay, Laura.
Did you go back to Dalton? or
Dalton did not get back to me.
What about Montgomery?
Montgomery did not call me back.
Is that unusual?
No.
Do you return the calls when people ask for it?
I do, but we have a policy that we only provide the job title, dates of employment, and wages. That's all we will supply.
But you get back to people?
I do.
They're
Because I'm a
also-
little surprised not to,
Well-
somebody wouldn't call if they're hiding something or something, I don't know.
And a lot of, it's not unusual because a lot of cities and towns, or a lot of employers in general, do not want to do reference checks.
They don't want to do
They don't
them.
want the liability
Period,
of it?
good, bad,
They don't want
otherwise.
to answer the question.
Correct.
Because
Good,
of
bad, or
because of
otherwise.
Because the
liability.
liability in employment is so difficult, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, Lori.
Montgomery's a small town.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
Exactly, and they
say.
could also not have hours.
Yeah.
They're very small,
That was pre-2007. It's a long time ago.
yeah,
Could be.
Exactly.
Could be maybe nobody's there.
Nobody
yeah.
can back it up.
Yep.
Exactly.
that's a possibility. That's what I was thinking.
I thought you were
And
still in Montgomery.
we had Lori.
I thought
Lori got glowing recommendations from Sandra Brusso and from...
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Lori had glowing recommendations from Department of Revenue, Sandra. Said that she's never had any problems dealing with her. Okay, I should preface it by saying Sandra is the auditor for the state, and she's the field advisor for East Hampton, Southampton, West Springfield, so she knows all of the three candidates. She said for Lori, she's never had a problem with her. She's made great strides in the 10 years she's been there. She said when Lori's had a question or an issue, she would do the research, the due diligence to find the proper answer. She wouldn't just push it aside or not answer it or make up an answer. She uses a vendor, as we do here. Sandra felt she continues to grow. She puts in her time and effort. They all said she dots her i's and crosses her t's.
And Sandra Russo is the one that told her about the job, is that what she said at the end?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think, isn't Randall, somebody else, all right, never mind.
Lori was the only one that listed Sandra Brusso as a reference,
Okay.
but Sandra spoke on all three.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Was there another reference for Lori? Did I miss one? I didn't know what other references.
Bishop,
And he said,
said all three of them are good, had their good and bad. He felt that
for Bishop on Lori.
Lori does a good job, is an excellent administrator.
Okay.
I said limited on personal property. Bishop said that, but that's one that we contract out as well.
Well, but there's not much in Southampton, for business, commercial or industrial, and that's,
Well, they have Big Y
I'm sure they take their word for it.
and Tractor Supply. They have two of them.
Harley, the little mall, the strip mall.
Yeah, they,
And
Yeah.
obviously, she's only been employed there for 10 years, so her employment history is
they
accurate.
got all those nice big fat Harleys sitting over there.
Well, thank you, Jane. That was a way thorough.
Currently.
So,
So we put one
Alright.
aside.
Yeah.
But here,
all right,
I'm
Jane.
sorry,
Thank
there's
you.
no doubt in my mind.
Thank you. All right.
No, that was David, that was in Auburn. Because
Oh,
he
Jamie,
meets
you're right.
with Cindy.
Sorry, you're right.
Okay, can I have mine?
Cindy's in Auburn, who works here.
Okay. All right, so.
I think.
We have 3 candidates, and before we put any motions on the table, I'm going to open it up. I'm gonna offer it up to each of the counselors because this is an open meeting. So I'm gonna take input from everybody and just kind of,
Could I make a statement first?
sure.
Just because obviously, I know I checked with open meeting laws, we can't take a vote on this, but obviously the purpose of this is hopefully that we would be, the person that the subcommittee recommends we would be confident would be leaving here with a majority of vote, or at least the majority of the people here. So if in your statement, you could state who you would put number 1.
Yeah, because you can't vote, it has to be the subcommittee, but we certainly would love everybody's input to this.
Before I form that opinion, I
Mhm.
would very much like to hear from the members behind me if they're willing to
Sure.
state an opinion. And I'd
Sure.
like that first. I don't know
Yeah.
if the other counselors would either.
I think it's a
And-
good strategy.
Yeah, and I do, I really do. And we've asked you to be here because obviously the city councilors aren't here on the day-to-day basis. And whoever we go forth with will be working with you on all of the aspects of the city side. So it's really important that whoever we go forward with, you feel comfortable with, because you're going to be working with this person, and this person will be going to our human resource and for the day-to-day operations. Obviously, we as city councilors are the appointing authority, but you will be working with them. So if you would like to give your opinion on the 3 candidates, we certainly would appreciate that. Would we start with Peter? Would you like to throw the ball on the table? If not, that's okay.
You don't need to.
We don't want to
You don't
put
need
you,
to if you don't want to.
we don't want to put you,
Certainly,
but,
if you
you
do,
know.
that's great.
I mean, obviously you're aware that one of the board members is one of the candidates, so.
Right.
That puts it in a little different
Okay, that's fine.
prospect. But, I mean, I have the full faith and the confidence in the committee and the council, to reach the decision. I think that we have 3 qualified candidates. Obviously, one will prove to be better. But I think that what we need to do, we've had some issues in the department. And we need to find a candidate that will be, number 1, competent. Number 2, we need to have, in our department, we need to have someone who is ethical. We need to have someone that is professional. And we need to have someone that will continue to meet the goals of what we need for the city. And I think we have 3 good choices. And I think that
It's all right,
I'm not-
Peter.
yeah.
I mean, you've given us
Yeah.
quite a bit to think about. Thank you. Mayor?
Sure, I'd be happy to, give my input. For me, experience is very important. Years of experience doing a position that is, very comparable to ours. To me, sometimes references don't hold that much weight because hopefully people don't put down somebody for a reference that wouldn't give them a good one. But when references happen to be DOR reps that work with all the different communities, that to me also holds a lot of weight. So these are the people, this particular position is very closely related, to the DOR certifications. So to me, when you have the person that represents our communities giving glowing recommendation, that's very important to me. So I think, the candidates, I think they all interviewed well. For me, I always go with somebody that is doing what we need done and can do it. This is an office that has 2 part-time clerical positions right now, so you really need someone to hit the, that old expression, hit the ground running. So, again, obviously, I don't know if you want me to sit.
Yeah.
I think that's enough, or if you want more than that.
You do want to give us who you'd like?
I would like to hear a name if you feel confident saying it.
Well, I would go with, actually, I didn't even go with, yep.
Lori.
For me, it would be Lori in Southampton because of her years of experience and because of her, her certifications, because of her relationship with DOR. Some of the things that were said, she runs into a problem. She, doesn't push it to the side. She digs in and gets it done. I thought her questions that she asked the council were very good. They were questions on exactly the inside part of the job, the fact that she is used to being out in the field and, doing the field work, I thought was another big asset. We have a data collector, but it sounds like she really, knows the job inside out. So I thought the other candidates interviewed very well, but her experience seemed just more directly related. And again, glowing references. So anyway, that's any questions that you want to ask me on that, but.
Okay, thank you. Our finance director.
Honestly, I think, for me, it's between 2 candidates. I just honestly just have to, I had a favorite coming in and then, but I think that there's 2 candidates that have different experiences and some, they have pros and cons to both of them. And so at this point, I couldn't say.
Val?
I agree with Karen. I put a lot of weight on Sandy's opinion because she's the one that deals with these people day in and day out and setting the rates and everything. So she would have a really good idea of who really knows how to do the job and will do it well. And the idea that, someone will really work to get things right. And the comment about the man from West Springfield, who gave that comment that he just goes with the flow and doesn't do anything
Mr.
else?
Bishop.
His reference.
I know him. I know Bishop. He was in Palmer. To me, those kind of comments bear a lot of weight because you can't really tell from how a person interviews. I thought the man interviewed a little better than Lori did, but I think I would rate the opinions of the DOR rep and the people that deal with them much higher with how well they are at public speaking, which is not really a part of their job, And I wasn't sure on the question that Lori was asked about the date being passed for the abatement, if she understood that it was due to a mistake. From her answer, I didn't think she understood that. Because the man from West Springfield answered that, I thought, very well. But he understood that, it was obvious. But I didn't think she really understood that from her answer. Because I don't know if she would have said, well, the date's done and these are the rules.
Well, the answer is still the same, actually, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's still the same answer. but-
Well,
She said she showed them.
To clarify, there is, David actually had the correct answer, but the board heard it from Chris. I realized when the question was being asked that he would have an advantage being on the board because it was an error by a former assessor that it can be abated.
Okay,
Yeah.
one other thing I
Karen?
wanted to add that I forgot to that was important to me about Lori. She mentioned how she chips in and works with the other departments and even sometimes work from them comes to her. And for this particular position, it is vital that they work with the tax collector's office, with the auditor's office, and with the treasurer's office. So when she mentioned, whether it's her job or not, she likes to help out other offices.
Yeah.
That was another plus to me. Like,
She did
I'm
say
big
that,
into the
A team player.
That's a
Yeah.
big deal for me.
Yeah.
So, because of the coordination in this position, we've had, those are some of the difficulties we've run up to before. So to me, the working with the different departments is crucial, when you're setting tax rates and that type of thing.
Well,
So that stood out too. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention.
No, that's all right. Now, this is why we have you in the room. Again, you are the people that will be working to get what we need to get done for our tax certification and our free cash and all of it. And you all need to work together as a team. You can't, and that's our job, is to make sure that we put forth somebody that's going to be able to fill that piece for you so that it all goes smoothly on your end, because you're a full team, so.
The most important thing we do together as a team is the tax recap and setting the tax rate.
Right.
And that has to be done as a team, that's really important. So I would definitely go for Lori, I think.
Okay. All right, thank you. I'm going to start at the far corner. Counselor Hagan, do you have anything to add?
I always have something to add.
And we're going to miss that so much. Seriously.
I agree there's two candidates here that really deserve the most scrutiny. I thought I forget the name, Randall and Austin, I thought he interviewed the best. I thought his answers were the most thorough. I thought he had really the best grasp of all the issues. He said, I was writing a few notes, he seemed to be very deliberate. He was very in-depth of his vision and his methods of operation. I didn't get the feeling he would be other than a team player. I mean, he seemed like a guy that said that there's a dual rate there, but he didn't go into the other town he was in and said Dalton was one where he thought maybe they should go to a dual rate, but after getting the tenor of the community, he didn't pursue it. I thought Laurie was very nervous, but she did get better as the interview went on. I thought she got much more. So I think what it comes down to me is, in why I would lean, and I know we can't really debate it because we have a majority, but I guess my first choice would be the gentleman from West Springfield, because I don't think he will have a problem coming from a larger community to a smaller community. I did get the one thing I got from Laurie is I felt she was a little apprehensive and asked a lot about like what she had to do here versus her firm knowledge of Southampton, that it's 99% residential. I know it's not that much, but, and she's coming like from the smaller town to the big one, and I just think, again, that is just the thing that differentiated them from me, was and again, I know it's always hard in just one interview, but that's my opinion.
Me?
Yeah, please.
I have a few things to say. First of all, there are only 2 candidates. I'll talk about Randall Austin first, and he interviewed well, but I don't hold the interview against Laurie because, as you say, she was nervous, and I don't think she was as prepared. Randall may have interviewed better. But there's one of the things I've learned, having been in a position of hiring people a lot, is to read between the lines. And I'm reading things between the lines, and some of them are even said. Mr. Bishop and I do hold the DOR pretty high. And when a man like Mr. Bishop only puts in his time, puts in no extra effort, that says a lot about a candidate, and I worry about that. I also worry about his comment that we don't pay enough. I'm not sure he's going to take the job, frankly, because we don't pay what West Springfield pays. But also, and I need to be corrected on this, it sounded like through the references with his employment that he was leaving West Springfield because he didn't get his college education. Was that what you said?
That's what 2 of the references have said.
So he's actually leaving West Springfield. Because I got the undercurrent that when he stated that he didn't like it there, that there's a problem there, that we're not being told totally. And Mr. Bishop's comment, and the comment that was their reason for him not being there, and his comment that he wasn't getting along, I worry about that. I think that has to be very considered, because that's the reading between the lines. From the point of view of his knowledge, and the fact that he knocked it out of the ballpark with his references on data, I thought that was great. And I think he did interview better. But those comments weigh a lot on me. And I think the DOR's comments about Laurie, that knocks it out of the ballpark for her. She did not interview well, and I'll grant that. And I'm almost at the position that Melissa's at. We could probably work with either one of these candidates from that point of view. But I worry about the undercurrent that's there about the last position when, number one, he's leaving because he didn't get his college education. First of all, if I really like someone, I would just say, let's get that college education because we want you to stay. Not use it as a reason for them to leave. I worry about that. I don't know if there's anything being said there. Maybe nothing. Maybe he is leaving because of that. But we can't debate it, and I know you may want to debate that with me. But
No, I don't. I just wanted to say something for clarification about
Okay.
when did he sign that? Was
I
that-
understood that was when he came on. And this came from the references.
Okay.
That when he came on, he was asked
to get his degree.
to get his degree. And he signed something agreeing to do that within a specific time period.
So an employment contract.
Right. Does it mean he loses his job? They weren't clear on that? Or does it mean, one of them made a comment of a financial, there'll be no more financial increases or something to that effect. So, but the degree is hanging over him.
I worry about the word teamwork when I hear all this about Rick. So that's what's cautioning me.
The other
I'm
comment-
cautious about that. Not that I wouldn't take the chance, because I don't know if it's appropriate for me to say, your comment to me that Jack said that we can have that probationary appointment, there's no problem with that. After 6 months, you can review it. We're okay. If you guys really want to go Randall, okay. But I am pretty strongly against him because of those undercurrents. Lori, on the other hand, comes with good references, excellent references, and he's, I think if I'm right, he had 3 years PA experience, and she's got 10 years experience. She's growing in the job, and yes, she's coming to a community that has more business and more industrial that she has to deal with. But it sounds to me like she'll get on the job quickly and learn, and I'm not worried about that. Again, if we find a problem, we've got that 5-month review. So I have to say, and lastly, what's important to me, we've had 2 of our administrators say they really like Lori. They're the people that've got to work with her. I don't think we're going to, and to be honest with you guys, I don't think we're going to get hurt with either of these candidates, that we can take the chance. But I think if these people behind us really like Lori and want to do it, I'd like to give Lori that chance to work with Val and the mayor and Melissa, because I think that's important to me. But when Sandra says, you know, is glowing recommendations, that DOR reference makes a lot of sense to me. But the you got to think about the undercurrents under Randall, so that's why I'm hesitating on him, and I'd like to go with Lori. Sorry, I rambled on.
Are you done?
You said your piece, that's
Okay,
good.
that's okay. So, Counselor Kaczynski, please.
First of all, I certainly respect the DOR rep's advice on situations, but I wonder, in some regards, if they have a limited perspective of what's going on. The tax rate recapitulation, there may be other things that they don't see. They handle, I don't know, 17 towns, I think, the rep handles. So it's hard to know exactly everything. They see the people on an intermittent basis. So what I'm saying is I respect their judgment, but yet I'm not sure it's a full evaluation of the full person and their work. She was very nervous, Lori was, and it made several of us very uncomfortable in the process. And it may be because, just what didn't have an expectation, she'd be meeting with a large group. I think it's important that we have somebody who can facilitate working with the public. And I felt very comfortable with Mr. Austin, his ability to frame issues, to understand the subject matter, to delve deeply into the subject, and I felt that he would be able to handle our public very well. That isn't to say that Lori couldn't do the job, but she had some hesitation about her commercial abilities and the industrial abilities. And I wonder how much we spend. And I don't know if Peter, you might know, because when we contract out work that can't be done by the office inside, it costs a couple $100,000 sometimes, is what $100 to $200, depending on whether it's a revaluation year and but it's a significant. It's not like $5,000 or a few $1,000.
It also allows us, to go in for our review. One of the things also is it does save some of the liability and some of the stuff of going to tax court. Going to the appellate board, because there's another layer in there. And we would provide the tools for that. And there are inspections that go out, but I don't think that would be something that she couldn't learn. She has the experience. The industrial and commercial in Southampton. We got some. They got tractors supplying big wives, bigger than what we got.
Right. Yeah.
We have stuff like Eastworks, or we have all the individual artists, but
and they also have a lot of manufacturing in Southampton.
That's the biggest.
Yeah.
The main thing is, and as you know, JP, we have a lot more multi-families, which would be a little something different. And, the income and expense reading is not rocket science. I'm sure you can figure it out. They have a few of them down there. We just have more. We just have more of them to go through. A lot more. And I think that, nothing has changed there, but I think that the large portion of our housing stock, is single-family residential. And she seems to be very good with that.
Very strong.
Very good with that, and explaining it. And, I'd have to say personally, I've been down there asking for some help, and I've been treated very well, even though
You
they
mean in
knew I was a real estate
Southampton?
agent.
In Southampton?
Yep.
Okay.
I went there today.
JP.
And didn't announce who I was.
Okay.
And,
Maybe
yeah,
you're the
asked
one
a
that
lot-
was making her nervous.
Asked a lot of questions.
Did she see you today?
She did, but I don't think she picked up on it.
so
I don't think she picked up on it.
boy.
I just went in, no, I
It's
don't
all
think
right.
she picked up on it at
Oh,
all.
no?
Yeah,
She didn't know?
Because I had gone in just to see how you're treated in the office. And I would have to give it a definite neutral. It was not the pleasant personality that I really was hoping to see. I like to see smiles in an office like that, and boy, when you get it, it makes one heck of a difference. But most communities, we don't get the smiles when we go to the offices to ask questions.
Get a bill.
So, anyway, I think we'd be handling the public well with Mr. Austin. I guess he would be my first choice, and she would be my second choice.
Okay. Alrighty then. Who on the subcommittee? Now I'm gonna bring the conversation.
Okay.
Tamara?
When Randall came into the room and he was talking, I think some of the strengths that he had was his ability to think on his feet. I liked that we initially asked him about the vision system, and in a later question brought that back into the conversation. I liked that he was really considering the questions and thinking of follow-up questions. When I compare that to Lori, who didn't really have any questions that, aside from what I thought were more simplistic questions about how does this differ from our system, a lot less presence about her in the interview. And I've been hearing what everyone is saying, and I wanted to ask a question. This may just not be an appropriate question or not. I don't know the role of who is the person who gave her, Sandra Brusso? Mm-hmm. Is Sandra Brusso's hope that regardless of what the Department of Revenue is asking, would the ideal assessor in that person be the one who is most agreeable?
She was the one that told her to apply for the job, right?
Right, but I'm saying, and I agree with JP here, in that if the reason everybody likes her is because she has a pleasant demeanor and she is agreeable and will do that, that's a very different personality trait and job trait than they may not, and he stated, nobody comes into this job wanting to be liked. You're here to make sure that people are held accountable to the standards that are being set. So I found those to be two extremely different strengths, not putting a quantitative difference over which one is better, but they're two very different strengths. And so I'd like to hear more about, when it comes to the day-to-day operations, I could certainly appreciate and understand that someone who is easy to work with is definitely someone who's a lot better to be around. But when it comes to the assessor job itself, and I look at the strengths that Lori brings to that, and the, likability or pleasant to work with, detail-oriented, I also see that she's been in the same job with very little lateral, well, she's at the highest position she can be at, and it's been over a decade before she even looked for another job, and only did so at the suggestion of someone else. So my question then is, you have Randall, who has been in a lot of different positions and brought in the experience from those different positions into his interview, and thought on his feet and stood his ground that I may not be liked, but I'm going to back up what I do and what I say with very meticulous records. And I didn't see any of that from Lori. So in terms of even the recommendations, let alone what she said in here, I'm having a harder time based on what I see here as to why Lori would be the better candidate, except that she's nicer to work with.
I don't think they.
Can I answer some of her
No, you
questions or
can't.
No, not
Okay.
at this point, but.
All right, so that's
Okay.
one of my concerns.
Joe?
Yeah, I kind of agree with most of what everyone's saying. I think we took battle, two strong candidates. I think Randall interviewed more strongly, but I think Lori showed, she relaxed. I think her personally came through. As the mayor said, I kind of was impressed by her questionings. I felt there was a depth of knowledge and an interest in what she was doing. And I'm comparing experience. Randall has been a full-time assessor for, I think, 3 years, if I have my dates right.
And he just got his MMA.
Right, and I think Lori has 10 years of being a principal assessor, and I think there is a depth of experience that comes with that kind of experience. So again, it was kind of tough looking at these numbers, but I guess I'd be fine with either, but I would vote, my first choice would be Lori with Randall next.
All right, so I'm not going to put a whole lot of weight on the interviews because everybody interviews differently. Some people are more comfortable in a group, other people get very nervous and by putting, and obviously she didn't expect the number of people that were here. That was very obvious, and so I'm not going to put a whole lot of weight. Randall did go into a lot more of our questions, like Tamara said. He's quick off the feet, and I'm not really quite sure as to whether that's a trait that we want down that office. I think I would rather have somebody that would be more thoughtful and think something out a little bit longer than to be just quick off the feet with an answer. I know he did say that, he has gone back and researched things and things like that, but I think what I'm trying to say is that I'm going to agree with Councilor Rist on this, is that when you get the Department of Revenue, who is the law, they are the law. They certify our free cash. They oversee. They're the Massachusetts component. Like in my job, I have the Registry of Motor Vehicles. They are, to me, they are the law. Nothing gets by the Registry of Motor Vehicles, and I'm sure that with the DOR, nothing gets by the DOR. That's what I'm putting out there. I think that it's a different relationship if you're working with the DOR and the DOR is saying to you or saying to us that this person is doing everything by the law. We put a lot of weight into their references as to the relationship piece that you were coming across with. I think that it would be a different relationship between a person working in the office with the Department of Revenue as opposed to a person in the office working with the public.
Okay.
Do you see what I'm saying with that? And then we got JP saying, well, he went and did an impromptu visit today and she wasn't all cheery and smiley. Well,
She had an interview tonight and she was working. I don't know.
I mean, I've had moments in public office where I've had people come into my office and I haven't always been cheery and welcoming because it's just been one of those days, and it happens. So,
Except you're seeing a variety. Oh, I'm sorry.
You can't.
So that's,
Jack says we can't do that,
So
unfortunately.
one moment in time, one picture moment in time. It's just like sitting in the interview.
And to be fair, you'd have to stop at each person's office too.
Right. So, and then, but I think Dan brought up, and Dan and I've been here a long time, and I think I can read Dan pretty well, but Dan made a very, very valid point in the undercurrent, and I picked up on it also, about, with Randall, about the whole education piece and he wasn't very upfront about why he wanted to leave West Springfield, and yet he's asking us about our pay scale, and we're kind of low, and, that just raises a lot of concerns for me. I mean, even though it's 34 hours a week, it's not a 40-hour-a-week job, and we made that very clear in the presentation, in the opening presentation. West Springfield, let's face it, they're huge. They're fully commercialized. That's not to say that Lori doesn't have the experience with commercial property. I feel very comfortable with her experience with commercial properties. They've got some companies over there, manufacturing companies in Southampton. They have the commercial properties like Big Y. They've got Peebles. They've got Tractor Supply. They've got the Harley place. They've got grocery stores. They've got a lot of manufacturing that you probably don't even know about that are happening over in Southampton. And then they have their property. Yes, she might be a little bit weak on the duplexes, but I really think that she's sharp enough to be able to pick up on that very quickly. It's really not that big of a difference.
Okay.
So my initial vote will be probably with Lori being our first, and then obviously Randall being my second choice. But that's where I'm gonna go with my vote. I feel, I don't know, it's hard to put a finger on it, but I feel that just because she didn't interview as charismatically as Randall, that there's something there that Lori, she has a lot to offer, but I just think that she was so nervous, and that it just, so, yeah.
Can we add to our comments?
We haven't put a motion on the table, so yeah, absolutely.
It seemed to me that Lori's experience was limited to Southampton, that Randall's experience was in a small community, Dalton, in a smaller community, Montgomery, and then maybe too big a community in West Springfield, was my sense of his career path. And that we might be the right match because of our size and complexity. It just felt interesting that way. And I think both interviewees I picked up undercurrents with both of them. They weren't happy in their position, but that to me doesn't seem unusual. You're leaving a job and trying to go somewhere else. Maybe things aren't right, or for either party, and you kind of take a chance when you hire either one.
Yeah, and that brings back to me, I'm sorry, that brings back to me when you said that she's been in the job for 10 years. I have been in my position for 15 years, and I actually just last year went on a job interview after 14 years.
And I can speak to that. I've been in a job 35 years because I love the job.
Right.
So there's nothing, it's not a negative necessarily. And I don't have upward mobility unless I leave the area and go do movies, but I have a family, I have roots here. So I certainly don't pull that against her because she likes her job. I think she saw an opportunity to do a similar job. Yes, we have more industrial and more residential, but that doesn't mean anything in the sense that she knows how to do that. It just means it's more of a lateral move than if she moved to West Springfield. That would be a little higher. I am not going to, I feel the undercurrents are more than just that he doesn't like the job. I think there's some tension going on down there, and we're not going to know about it.
Yeah.
But that's okay. That's there. I would like to speak to the fact that either of these candidates, if we want to take it, if the committee went to Lori, I hope my other councilors will say, well, they're both good candidates, and we'll go with that. Or if you went with Randall, I would, if you really want Randall, if you guys come out and say Randall tonight, I would be hesitant, but in the interest of consensus, I would say, okay. I mean, I vote for that on the 8th. But I'm going to encourage you to go with Lori because I think I just think that undercurrent there is there. And can I say something else? Our past assessor interviewed very well. That's all I'm going to say.
If I could just weigh in on something that was brought up since I made the, kind of the first comments other than the administration. I guess I don't put, because everyone seemed to put a lot on the Sandy from DOR. Well, it seems like Sandy from DOR is definitely a closer friend of Laurie's, and she told her to apply for the job. And it wasn't like Sandy made negative comments about Randall. She said he was showing growth in the job, he's doing okay. So again, I guess if you're giving recommendations on two people and one of them is the one you sent to have the job, I mean, I think you have to weigh what her perspective is giving you that recommendation. And I just, everyone seemed to say that Sandy is the one, and again, I guess I'm not putting as much weight in what she said, because it wasn't like she said he's not doing the job. And a little of what Tamara said is, as one who came from a profession that you can't always be everyone's friend, being friendly is not necessarily I'm not saying it's good, I think you should always be friendly. I'm just saying it's having the data and being professional and being able to tell people the answers. I didn't get a thing from him. He more or less was very much saying that if a person came in, he would do everything he could to explain. He would go out of their way and go to their house, so that the following year, if they missed the date, that was one of the questions on missing the date, that he would actually go back out, make the extra effort to go back out, so that the next year when their abatement came up, they would be ready and pass. So I guess he just impressed me more. Again, it's unfair in a little ways, because you see Laurie in both of them. I mean, you see 20, 25 minutes, and you gotta kind of make a determination, which is tough. But just a couple of my comments.
It's funny because I had a different perspective than, or takeaway than Tamara did on the DOR, because I don't think at any point they were recommending because they were nice to deal with. It sounded to me like every comment she made, the DOR made, was their capabilities, their knowledge. And so I think when her recommendation is that she thinks she would be great, it's not because she agrees with me, so she's easier for me to handle. I think the way I interpreted her interpretation is because she, from the DOR perspective, she has the greatest breadth of knowledge of what DOR thinks
It's
issues.
more based on skill.
So I took it not so much as a personal reference, or like I like dealing with her because she's funny and we talk about whatever, but because she knows her stuff.
She's
So that,
professional.
I do put, I still put weight in that. And again, but not to say, I mean, we're in a terrible position that we have two good candidates, and so it is tough.
It's not like it was in the past.
Yeah,
In the
exactly.
past, we've had situations where we couldn't get candidates.
Well, to be clear, I was bringing it up as a possibility, as one possible interpretation. I don't dislike Lori as a candidate. I just think Randall, both on paper and in person, came across as a stronger candidate. And I hear everything that you're saying about, between the lines and everything. To be the devil's advocate in that, if I read between the lines, Lori, I could also say that Lori is used to doing all the work herself and has no experience delegating that out to other people, and we don't know whether or not she would feel comfortable doing so. I interpreted from the way that she asked that question as she's looking forward to delegating that work, but that is another, when we look at these two candidates side by side, I think one of them has done a lot of their work solo, and one of them has been forced to work with a lot of different people. Again, not being in the day-to-day operations, I don't know what's the more important characteristic. That ability to be able to negotiate and deal with many different departments, or be able to have every decision that you make very transparent.
One last thing. The people that have to deal with the day-to-day, just coming back on what Tamara said, have made a recommendation based on their knowledge of what's going on. And I put a lot of weight in these two people behind me, and especially the mayor, and especially Val, because she knows the position and the teamwork that is required. I don't think they would recommend Lori if they were at all at ease. I'm not saying they wouldn't work with Randall, but I put a lot of weight on that, and I encourage you to do that. That's what's swaying me to make sure. I won't not vote for Randall if I see that there's 8 votes for Randall, I go, geez, okay. But my point is, I like to put a lot of weight on the people that know the DOR, but also the people that are going to work in this building. And they've asked for us to consider Lori, and I put a lot of weight on that. It's our job, I agree, that we have to make the decision, but you got two great candidates, and the people behind us have to work with them, and I think that sways me. Although the undercurrents, I'm still not going away from that with him. I think there's something going on, but beyond that, he may mold into the job great because he has a lot of knowledge and is clear on that. He does speak well on his feet. But again, I like what they're saying behind me, and I'm going to put a lot of weight on that. So
Well-
we shouldn't be debating this, I don't think.
All right, so we're, we're...
Which we started
we're at the
doing.
point now where I will entertain a motion now from the committee members. I think everybody's pretty much hashed this all
I
out,
gotta
so...
go home.
Well, I mean, I do have the question too. I mean, to be quite honest with you, as you could probably suspect, each candidate has 3 1 votes and 3 2 votes. So we're literally even of the people here. So the question is, do we want to go to the council with, it could be a 3-0 subcommittee recommendation, or it could be a 2-1 recommendation, we don't know. Or do we want to have another appointments meeting? We would have to give 48 hours, so it would not be until Wednesday, and just request 3 outstanding counselors to attend, to try to come up with a consensus. So the question is, do we want to take a vote tonight, or do we want to try to get the other 3 counselors here and find out where our majority would be?
I don't, my own personal opinion is I think we should just take the vote tonight and go forth with our first, take the vote for our first candidate, take the vote for the second candidate, and then what I'm thinking is, once the negotiation piece is over, if our first candidate decides that they don't want to accept the job, then...
I have to, point of order, this is a rules thing. The city council makes this. We don't
Right.
have a consensus in the room.
No.
So you cannot offer a job, in my opinion, to a 2-to-1 vote. You can't do that, because there's 2 counselors here that may agree and 2 counselors that disagree in the room. I don't see how you can do it. If you do that, and the council votes the other way, on the 8th, we're up for a lawsuit, I would think. So frankly, I know it's tough on the administration, but you're going to have to wait until, if you guys do a 3-0 vote and we come up with that vote on the 8th, great. But I don't see how you can get away with it. Joe, I'm sorry. I know
then we
we're
may
under
need to
that
call a
pressure.
special election, a special meeting, because, the reality is, if you're talking about having a meeting in July, and then 2, 3, 4 weeks minimum, we're talking August, I think that puts the city in a really bad position.
I agree, so maybe a special meeting's in order,
Right.
okay, that gets us around that.
Right.
But you're still waiting, let's say that special meeting is a week from today, which is, you need the time, you need 48 hours, it'd have to, I don't think you could do Wednesday, maybe you can. You have to deliver in hand, we went over this, to the counselors, notice of a special meeting. It's in the charter, so if you read that, you have to give them the notice in hand, or mail it to them. I'm sorry.
I know where
That's in
the
there.
mail is.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you just have to do that. So, let's say we meet next Wednesday or Thursday, how many counselors can attend? And then you're still waiting 2 weeks. So, I don't know how to solve this, I'm just presenting the facts. The facts are, there isn't a consensus, and I understand that, and that's just the way it goes. I don't know how to fix it. You can't fix it. We wait till the 8th, and then there's 2 more weeks. You're totally right. August.
All right,
What
well...
do we do? I mean, I don't know how, you guys are entitled to your opinion. You just,
You could bring in the 2 candidates before the whole council.
well, yeah. That doesn't solve the problem of when we meet and when we get out of the
It doesn't
job.
solve that, but you want to be able to have the rest of the council weigh in, since there seems to be a division.
Well, you can do that next week on the appointments meeting, as you're suggesting, because then you're only asking 3 counselors to attend, not all 9. But on the other hand, that still puts us further along. So I don't know what to do.
Do any of the counselors on the committee want to make a motion?
Not yet. I want to continue talking a little bit.
Okay.
Because I'm not firmly with Randall
Okay.
as my first choice and Lori
Okay.
as my second, but I have
Okay.
not heard enough that would put Lori straight out in the front.
Okay.
So
So let's continue the discussion, so,
I mean, if you, can we start with some of the background things?
Sure.
Let me go back to his,
You got the resumes in front of you, huh?
yeah.
Jane, can I ask you a quick question? There was one candidate that there was, maybe it was the first candidate, that if there was an opening, they said not to come back. Was that the first candidate, or was that? I can't remember.
You talk about
Correct.
tonight?
Okay, yeah. Sorry.
Do you happen to still have the notes that I took when I originally looked at the? I'd be curious to see how much of my opinion was swayed by the interview itself, so let me see how consistent my thoughts are with what I said before.
I don't know how you guys feel, but in the interest of preserving the city's tax rate and everything else, if they go for Randall, I'll change my vote. If they go for Lori, would you change your vote? Because I think this is where we're at. That's just my opinion. They're close enough to me that I wouldn't fight for Lori. That's just me. I just want to know that. I mean, if you really feel that we have to wait, we have to
I
wait.
think we're getting a field for at least the three of us of how much we can weigh in and what we would or wouldn't do at the full council. I mean, that's the,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying, Dan? I mean, if they want to make a recommendation, then, at that point, you go to the full council and make.
okay, guys.
Yeah, but that just means we have to
Let's,
wait.
let's let Tamara gather her.
In my notes,
Okay.
based on their original applications, clearly Lori stands out with having the MAA for a longer period of time than Randall does.
Okay.
While she only has a high school graduation, she has the field experience that was stated within the ad. And she put in her application about the vision, that's something that she's very familiar with. Randall's application actually rubbed me the wrong way as I'm looking at this, because he listed East Hampton as a town instead of a city, and that really bothered me. Like, if you're applying to a city job, call it a city.
It's like the guy from Eversource that's still writing state,
Town of East Hampton, yeah.
Town of
And
East Hampton.
I also had written down that since he still currently is the Montgomery assessor, how much would that be a conflict of time for
Oh,
what
that's
he needs
interesting.
to
I
do
didn't know
here
that.
versus doing
Yeah.
in Montgomery?
You caught that, yeah.
And I also wrote that he didn't have any education listed, whereas everybody else not only put their education, but put special courses that also indicated their education. For example, David put the specific courses that he took at the University of Massachusetts, UMass, that, so to have that in comparison to no education at all, I think again speaks to the knowing from the references that that's a really big issue going on in his life. That does seem a little interesting to me as someone looking at the application, that wouldn't be addressed at all. But maybe he was assuming that would be an issue for us, although in our job description it didn't say that a college degree was necessary. So,
Okay.
Troy, can I say something?
Sure.
Couple comments. Tamara, you're concerned about Lori only had the one position. If you look at Austin's, his positions are very short.
yeah, that's another thing to consider.
Underneath the line.
Because the town of deputy assessor
Okay.
ended because he got promoted. But prior to that, it was,
I'm talking to him.
I told him, I said, sorry. I slapped
Not
him.
you. I'm sorry.
no, that's okay. So
Okay.
7 months, 8 months. That's another concern, is that if he is going for the, for whatever reason why he's bouncing around, that does not talk to a loyal employee, and in terms of us not having to do this again in 6 months.
Which also fits into to Mr. Bishop's comment that he didn't think his heart was in it.
He said that?
Yes.
That's not what you said. You said that he didn't, I forget what you said, but that's new. I think
Oh,
you
I'm
said,
He also,
he had
that he did the job, but didn't
Hasn't-
put, he did
He didn't put the extraordinary
He
or
didn't-
something.
And that he wasn't sure if his heart was in it.
Oh, okay. You
Put in
didn't
his
say that.
time, but no extra effort is
Right.
what I thought
Put
you
in his-
said.
yeah,
But
that is
didn't
what
have
she
his heart
said.
in it.
He
was
wasn't sure if his
That's a new comment beyond the one
Yeah.
you gave us.
Oh, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
That's good. I'm glad, but that's another comment. Okay.
The other thing I wanted to, is Randall has multiple staff working
Right.
with him, whereas Lori has the one part-timer,
Right.
which, so we know that she's out there and has to do all levels of the job, which I think is important downstairs.
Yeah.
And JP, your comment about when you went into the office today that she didn't have a smile.
Well,
I didn't think that Randall had the smile during the interview at all. You know, that,
Except for the joke.
except for the one joke.
No, like completely everybody.
Which he didn't do well. I shouldn't go back.
I thought he was
Put his
answering the
name down.
question
I'll never
in a
forget his
pleasant
number.
manner. I thought Randall was answering the questions in a pleasant manner. I guess I'd have to read.
Well, I think they both
Yeah.
answered
They
the
were
questions in a
both-
pleasant
yeah.
manner. They
I
were
didn't- I
both
didn't think
pleasant.
that- yeah.
It was just a, some people are good and adapt well to certain environments and circumstances, and if you haven't been in an interview in a long time, it's very,
It can be very difficult.
it's very
Absolutely, very
difficult and nerve-wracking to sit in an interview with a bunch of strangers asking you questions, and you're sitting in the hot seat, and it's,
On camera.
yeah, no,
On
and you've been
camera.
told you've been on camera, and it's being videoed, and you know,
Yeah.
it's
Cameron, I
nerve-wracking.
just wanted to, you talked about jumping around, and I noticed that it looked like Randall's resume may have been short in a couple of jobs, a couple of years here. But I did recall that he was in Montgomery from 2000 to the present.
Yeah, that's what it
And that's
says.
a very long
That is a long-
time to be,
yeah.
I mean, 15 years in one
And he lives in the
location.
town of Montgomery,
Yeah.
so I.
How big is Montgomery?
I thought it was a couple thousand. Small. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Small,
but as,
small town.
as what job, assistant, because he didn't have his MMA until 2000.
Right, and-
Is he on the board? Is it
He
called
says
an
it's,
assessor?
he's the assessor for the town of Montgomery.
So sometimes they call the board the assessors.
The job
Technically, you are an
description.
assessor, but there is a principal assessor.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, everybody on the board has to pass a certain level of assessing.
I think he's on the board of assessors, but there is a principal assessor that's doing the job.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so,
I have one
Tamara?
other thing that I
Okay,
wanted to
okay, guys,
as a sociologist, I also just have to make knowledge of our expectations of gender roles. As a woman not smiling, we're socialized to expect that smile, so her not complying would probably have a greater effect on you than if she was a man. But it's true, and I'm not saying you, not saying you personally, but.
Smith College, I say.
I don't know.
I'm not touching the doctor's
No, this is
sociological.
one of my areas of expertise.
I'm voting for you for city
And
council.
I also think that when we also look at Lori coming in, and no disrespect to you, but telling her to calm down.
Probably heightened her.
Also heightened her anxiety. And
It may
although
have.
I thought David was also very anxious, I didn't see that same thing to him. So again, I'm saying I can be a little more forgiving of her nerves and everything, because as someone who is regularly seen as pleasant to be around and all that other stuff for myself, I can see a lot of those same criticisms. So I don't want to so quickly dismiss what she brings to the table if it's really due to our socialized expectations. But I'll step down off of my teaching podium for a bit now, but
Since
I
you
just
said
had
that,
to
let me
bring it in.
I expect in any city position that the public is treated with a great deal of respect. And being pleasant with the public is one of those qualities. And whether it's male or female, it doesn't matter to me. I
Yeah.
expect that kind of service.
Right. But because I was seeing a pattern of us exploring the way that she's interacting with us, and all of it going back to our gendered expectations of how much we would expect that, I just had to bring it up.
I deal with
Just-
it every day.
You had a little concern about him calling East Hampton a town, but in this just a little, I believe West Springfield also.
It is
also
still a
was
town.
No, it is a city known as the town of East Hampton. I mean, the
City
city
known
known
as
as
the
the town of West Springfield.
right.
So while they went to a city form, they still designate
They
themselves as the
still
town
call
of West
themselves a
Springfield.
town.
So it's the city known as the town of West Springfield.
So it's easy to make that kind
I'm
of
just
leap to a
They were one
smaller
of the
city.
first of the smaller,
That's not the reason.
those are one of the
Vote
smaller
against them.
venues that actually went to a city.
We're getting to the very...
Well, we don't have anything on the table, so after all of this discussion, would it be all right for me to go
an
back
open
to
meeting.
our...
Yeah, we have those two.
Melissa, you had something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, that I really don't think we should hold this up. And that, I said I had a preference coming in, and I'm appreciative that you went back to your notes, because my preference was for Lori coming in, and I was swayed by the interview. She was nervous. I interviewed just as badly, and what is being counted as a negative for her is something that we value here. She's a long-term, loyal employee, and that's what we're looking for. And she's now where she's, maybe someone else put it in her mind. This would be a move up. This is a slightly larger community. I believe it's a little more hours in Southampton, if I understand their structure. It's a little more oversight in the staffing of the office. And she's doing it in a slow, methodical, careful, respectful way in a profession that she's decided to make a career of. You don't put in 10 years and just go, oh yeah, never mind.
Yeah.
And it came from a path of, the real estate business, the appraisal business, and then the assessment business, and they all sort of, they're not the same, but they have an interrelationship. And so I think that her experience is not only in one place, it's in multiple places, and she is, she's a strong candidate, and the fact that she was loyal and spent her time learning her profession in one place is not something to say that she doesn't bring as much to the table. I think that she brings something very different to the table, and it's something that we value.
Would it be, could I ask Mr. Peter Davis a question?
Sure.
And this is not to do necessarily with any of the candidates, I was just, way back there was a contention, or that you weren't filming, or the public wasn't allowed into abatements or assess, maybe it's before your time. I think there was something.
We always have public.
You always have a public. At one time, I think there was. And how contentious do these, mainly the larger landowners that know the, I don't want to say know the system, but definitely keep an eye more on their property than the individual landowner. How contentious do these?
Most of those people come in and talk directly to the principal assessor, not at the meetings.
Okay.
But yet, when somebody comes into us, it's most likely with an attorney and an appraiser, and it's a lot of money.
So,
that's where they come to us, and the next step could be the appeal board. And I mean, I think it's very important to have someone that can do many jobs and understands them. And I mean, I think coming from a smaller town as Southampton, I don't think that Lori would have that problem making the jump. It's just an exponential growth. It's the same product, A ranch house is a ranch house, a cape is a cape. Things can be taught. And you kept talking about the DOR, and there was issues about whether this was because, you had coffee or whatever. I would think that the DOR rep would be recommending someone because of their competence, their ability to do things in a timely basis, not be dramatic about it. And the thing is, the less that you hear from somebody in those instances, and what Sandra's position is, the better they are.
Right.
Because I've I know her and have been through some things, and she is a pretty quick woman. When you have some issues, she deals with it very quickly, very strongly. And so you have to have your ducks in a row, and she doesn't suffer fools lightly. So if having the recommendation from her regarding the performance, I take that as a high compliment, and not just something for coffee.
Great. That's very valuable, Peter, thank you.
Yeah. So, I'm just going back to the resumes, side by side. You brought up some points that are very glaring. When Lori goes through her qualifications and experience, when you get to the college education, Lori's been to AIC, she's been to Springfield STCC, and in that, she's had, at STCC, business, computer courses, business management, accounting principles, MS Access. She's listed that. And again, like you said, you're not seeing that on Randall's education profile. And her background, I'm going to agree with Peter and with Melissa. I don't see this as being something that she would not be able to handle. I think she's looking at this as being, this is the perfect step up for her, for her talents and her strengths, and she's ready to go do that just because somebody suggested. That to me would be like somebody coming to me, like the registry coming to me and saying, you know, Joy, you need to go after this job because you have much more talent, you're more capable, you know, to any one of us, saying, a mentor or somebody saying to us, you know, you would be really good for this position, you should apply for it. So, but, she's, you know, that's, when I look at the qualifications side by side, as you pointed out to us, and just looking at the resumes, she's the clear choice. So.
Yeah, when I would be comfortable voting for Lori tonight after this conversation. If we didn't have this conversation and I didn't talk all these things through and we didn't say, okay, but this is another possibility, I would feel obviously very uncomfortable with it. I can appreciate the time crunch that we're under, and I'm certainly not at a position where I am so in favor of one candidate and completely not in favor of the other. I just really wanted to respect the process of hashing out both of these candidates side by side, because they really do offer very different strengths that they bring to the table. But hearing from administration that these are the strengths that are really sought after in this position, I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
No, I'm glad we did this.
Yeah, I
Before you make
appreciate
a
it.
motion, I was just looking, Laurie filled out this City of East Hampton application. Apparently, I was just talking to Jane, and she said she was going to ask him, and he never got a chance, or I don't know if he ever had a chance. I shouldn't
Everyone
say.
else
You can
sent
tell me. I don't
it,
want to
everyone
speak.
else sent them both in at the same time. He just sent in the application, the resume, and I meant to ask him this evening to fill one out while he was here. And
Were the instructions to send in both?
I don't remember.
I mean, that's just the only reason I said that. It kind of focuses on education. Like, in other words, we don't know what he got for education, but maybe because he didn't have this application that said education.
Right.
I mean, I'm just,
May I?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, go ahead.
I've been working at Smith College.
What?
Oh, it does say submit an application.
Submit an application, right?
Yes,
who
and
wish
the
to be
applications are
considered.
online.
Must submit an application with the or,
They do so by submitting an application.
okay.
Well, he might have thought that.
You know, as you were saying, I think that if I submit a resume, I consider that I'm submitting myself for the position.
Well,
Or maybe he didn't want to say something that's
I've
on
always
the application.
submitted an
There's
application
two sides
with
to
the
that.
resume,
so.
but there's two sides, yeah.
My
So-
comment,
I wouldn't hold it against somebody.
I have to say, I've been working at Smith College, which is a women's college, for 35 years. We try to teach our women to be independent and strong in character. That's the goal of Smith College, and it's still necessary. And I'm going to be on my soapbox a little bit now, because Tamara's ignited a fire. I have to say thank you.
Where's the extinguisher?
We have in this city an example where women are in positions of position and are very successful.
Absolutely.
And men are often viewed, because they're in positions, like Randall has been, of positions of strength that they don't have anything to answer to. They're already in positions of strength. Women have to reach that goal, even though they have it. They still have to be asked to reach it more. And I feel, as I've always been, that we've got to give women a better chance for being who they are, not because they're not men and in a position of authority. And I think you touched on something that I feel that comes out in an interview sometimes when women are competing against men for the same position, okay? And I encourage everybody to look at it from a perspective of, are you judging a man because he's a man and versus a woman? And I know it's like bringing up a race card. It's so difficult to talk about, but it is out there. We fight it all the time. I teach against it. I'm in a position at Smith where women are doing all the roles that carpentry and metalwork and welding that we think only men can do. It's bullshit. Sorry. So I just
wasn't
want to
raised
say that.
way, but that's.
But I just want to say, no, neither of anybody is there at all, and I'm saying you're not. But let's remember that we don't judge her because she's a woman and she seems frail or vulnerable. That's not the problem. I mean, if that's anywhere in anybody's mind, please get it out.
No.
Let her be. Okay.
That wasn't in my
All right,
mind
all
at all.
right,
And
okay.
I think we.
All right, let's
She brought
kind
it
of,
up,
let's just kind
and I
let's get
should have
back.
shut up. Forget it.
Let's get back
One
to
that only
this.
has a bachelor's degree in sociology, and obviously defer to the doctor. I take a little umbrage with what Dan says, and I think if we look
I
around...
apologize, Dan.
And I think if we look around the floor here, I don't think that we have a majority of women in all these positions. So I don't think anybody, at least to my knowledge in the city, is been against women getting ahead.
No, I don't
If
think.
that was-
I don't think that's
No,
what,
no,
that
hold
might have
it,
been
hold
the
it.
tenor,
Hey.
and I apologize.
All right, guys.
I apologize, that's not what I meant, but I
All
can
right.
understand how that
All
could
right,
be.
all right, I'm gonna
Okay.
cut this one down.
Apologize.
Val,
There's one thing that really bothers me about Randall. If he had an agreement in his employment contract to get a degree, and he'd been there a few years, why didn't he attempt to get the degree? To
We
me,
don't
that's
know if
not
he-
ethical.
we don't know. We don't know. That answer,
That bothers me.
yeah, that
For them to say.
That answer,
problem.
yeah, it wasn't answered one way or the other because we didn't ask that question, but it obviously came through the references that he had supplied to us. So, it's a valid point, but myself, if I just take out gender, take out names, take out everything, and you just look at not even the applications, but just look at the resumes and go through. I mean, Tamara, you nailed it. I mean, if you take out names and everything else and you just look at the resumes and you start going through the resumes, Lori's resume is much more in depth on qualifications, experience, background, education than Randall's is. And that's my own view. But if you just look at the resumes, just put them side by side, you take out names, you take who's, just look at the resumes. And
You're absolutely right. If you look at the resumes, and the public listening to us can't look at them.
No,
can't
they
see it
cannot.
because
They
can't
cannot.
see it. But one is very descriptive, and the other is less descriptive but more general, okay? I was always trained when I wrote a resume to be general, and when you get to the interview, let it all out and let your personality come across in the job.
See,
To shorten up the resume was what I was trained.
yeah, my resumes have always been like hers, but that's how I perceive it, but, yeah, whatever.
Oh,
So, yeah.
Resumes in
Yeah.
academia are 20 pages long.
All right, so, Joe, you've been pretty quiet.
My mind has been made up, and it's a very close call, and you have to pick one. I know it was for me over the line a little bit Lori's, and it pushed me more over the line just because they have to work with the person, and I think one of our faults with our previous assessor was that loss of interaction between the various departments, and coming from a small town. Should I get that right? Like Southampton, I think she has to do that. She has to work with everybody. Whereas I think, again, I don't know for sure, 'cause I'm not there, but I assume in West Springfield there's a little more of a separate department, as in just the staff alone would suggest.
Probably.
So I mean, again, I would still support Lori.
I can support Lori.
I will entertain a motion from my committee.
All right, I will entertain a motion to move forward Lori Stewart as our first choice candidate for the position of principal assessor for the city of East Hampton.
I will second that.
Discussion.
Discussion.
More? You want more?
We had enough discussion.
We don't have, we can move the question. Is there any discussion? Tamara, you've discussed it to the,
What's your grandpa have?
Well, I guess my last discussion point that I'm going to say is that I'm looking forward to, if Lori Stewart does accept the position, I'm looking forward to seeing her grow into it, and just look forward to working together in the future.
Yeah.
your discussion's out.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Okay.
I said everything.
I think I've said everything that I need to say. I think that hearing from our administrators who will be working daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, and her longevity, I mean, it just, to me, it's just going to be a good match. So that's all I need to say. So all in favor? Aye. Any against? It's a unanimous 3-0 that we go to City Council on July 8th with our recommendation that we go forward with Lori being our first candidate.
Melissa, from Dan's point, do you think we cannot get someone in here until the city council votes on that? And then, because of that, would you like us to schedule a special meeting for next Wednesday to take a full vote on this?
Not a poll vote, we could do a full vote.
Sorry, yeah.
I thought you said full vote.
He meant to say full vote. Wait,
He said
meant to say
full
full
vote.
vote.
We're not doing poll votes, a full vote by the city council.
Yeah.
Oh, so before the end of this one?
Well, the question is, because the question came up, which I think it sounded like the administration was hoping to get this person in, although it does sound with Lori's time frame, she probably couldn't be here after July 17th.
She said she was,
Here's the question, I mean, she does have to give things, but this is always the
Right.
weird thing about this is that, when I was hired, I mean, this stuff hits the paper, her job is over. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
so, and then it's subject to your appointment.
Right.
So, I mean, there's interim appointments that you can do, maybe, I don't know. But at the same time, it's sort of like,
It's hanging over your
it's
head.
hanging over her head until you make a vote.
so, our first meeting in July is the 8th.
They could fire her for cause because
And-
she decided to apply for a job.
End of the fiscal year is June 30th. Our first meeting is the July 8th meeting.
She wouldn't, if we decide not to offer her the job, she doesn't start until August. or 2 weeks after July 8th. If you offer her the job on the knowledge that you have 4 votes right now, you can do that, but I don't know, you're taking a chance that you're not going to get the vote. Now, legally speaking, she doesn't.
Well, how do you put her forward as an appointment when you haven't offered her the job?
I don't know.
We have to
Our
negotiate.
job is, you have to negotiate with her, but our
Right.
job is to appoint her, so
Which-
we're the appointing authority. I mean, it's easier when it's just the mayor, so.
It'll happen on the vote will happen on July 8th.
Is it important enough to have a meeting next week? I think
Well, that's my
what
question.
Joe's-
So,
that's what
Joe
I think
is-
it may be, if in fact it would work.
I
mean, it
would not be
in this
opposed
fiscal
to
year.
that.
Can I?
It would be a
But-
full city council meeting.
Yeah. No.
But
Now,
it's-
because you're the president, I'm going to turn the table over to you for this discussion, because you, as the president, is the only one that can pull.
Right, right. I'm just waiting for direction from Melissa and stuff, because I mean.
So
if-
when
if
would be the
time frame
soonest
is
that we
fine.
could have it?
You do
Wednesday.
have to.
Wednesday, the 24th.
Right. Because I asked, like, Barb, I was talking to Barb today about in
June
case we were gonna,
24th.
because we need 48 hours of notification. and I
But
got
you
it.
have to deliver, and maybe I'm wrong, Joe, but you have to deliver it letter in hand to the council.
I'll do it tomorrow
He
morning.
can do it.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure you knew that there's a step in
So-
there we have to do.
Do you think you'll get a full committee?
Well, that's the problem. Well, here's the
We
thing.
need the
Can I say
majority
something?
of the
Wednesday
majority.
night is an ordinance meeting, and Wednesday night is a finance meeting. That's 6 members of the council are available.
Very good.
And who's not on either of those committees? You're on ordinance,
I'm on ordinance.
and you're on ordinance?
What time are the committee meetings?
So that would mean 7.
What time is the committee meeting?
So we can
6.
change the time.
Well, we could go after.
We
We
could
could
go
do a
after.
7 o'clock council
Right.
meeting. I don't know, how long is the ordinance meeting?
Ours should be only just 2 items on finance, that should be fairly quick.
Yeah.
Should be ready by 6:30.
Because it can be a special meeting, it's only one agenda item, you just.
And the
you can do that.
majority
You
of
read
the
it, you just
councilors
have
are
to
going to
write
be
it
here
in.
anyway, so
And it doesn't, it's a special
It
meeting, so it
makes
doesn't have to
sense.
follow all the other agenda
Right.
normals.
Right.
It's just a special meeting.
yeah,
And there's 6 of us that we know are available Wednesday night.
yeah,
7.
yeah.
So
I
you
got
just
a
have to.
text from Councilor Ziegler, who said, apologize for not being, to be as involved as he would like to be because of work, but he trusts our subcommittee and will go with whatever recommendation the appointment subcommittee makes.
Well, he still has to show up and vote.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, so I think.
But
there's-
he's on,
I mean, it's nice if we could, boy, if we could do proxy votes for him.
wait a minute, now, wait, now,
Can we
you
Skype in?
have finance and ordinance, is he on either one of those?
He's on ordinance.
He's on ordinance, so
He'll be
he's
there.
going to be here.
Oh, there you go.
Most of the councilors are going to be here
No,
on
that's 6,
Wednesday.
that's still the 6, that's still 7. Who's not being counted here?
Joy.
Jay, Jennifer Hayes.
And
Is she on either one of those?
I don't think so.
No? Okay,
Public
well,
safety and rules.
well, that's all right, either they're going to be here or they're not. If
Salem.
Joe says,
Salem, but that's
For
6.
ordinance.
6, ordinance and finance is 6. You and Jennifer is 7, 8. Who are we missing?
Joe.
Joe.
he'll be here,
And he's gonna be here.
You're not on finance?
He's not on ordinance.
Finance.
he'll be here.
What the hell?
So we're gonna have at least.
How did I miss you? How did I miss you, Joe?
All right, so,
May I ask a quick
We should have
question?
8.
He's a slacker. He
Is it
doesn't
un-
do anything.
Is it unusual, I mean, this, let me just first say, it seems like we had a very close.
Oh, you know what, I'm sorry.
Very close.
Did we end this meeting?
No,
No, you
no.
didn't.
no, we can't,
We're
yeah.
still debating this and deliberating.
And so, is it unusual to have a second interview in situations?
I don't.
People-
I don't think that we need a second interview myself.
I'm just-
It's not unusual, I mean, we're down to 2
And it would make
candidates.
sense to allow the other counselors the opportunity to meet the people personally.
I mean, can you invite the people to the 2, I mean, if we're voting on the candidates, can we invite the 2?
Yeah, we already have a recommendation.
Yeah, we have a recommendation,
So you
so,
can't bring, you don't bring.
Yeah.
I see you can't bring.
You bring
Yeah.
Randall in and he knows it as a second.
Right.
yeah, no, we have a recommendation. and
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So, it's now up to the president to decide what he wants to do.
I think the special meeting's in order. It still delays notifying them by a week, but that's better than a month.
Well, what that can do is if the city council approves this on the 24th, she wants to do a couple weeks' notice. She did say that. She said it was only fair that she would give them 3 weeks, whereas everybody else was willing to jump ship immediately almost. 2 weeks notice, boom, gone. I think that would be giving her the security that as of July 1, the position would be secured, new fiscal year. And whenever she could come on, she could come on. We'll arrange for
I
our,
think it's fair
so.
for Jane to do negotiating,
Mhm.
in a sense. We have a second candidate.
Mhm.
You guys have motioned that
Mhm.
Randall's your second candidate.
Well, we didn't make the
Negotiation.
motion, but he was.
Well, obviously,
we-
but if she fails to want the job after you negotiate, then that's another thing we ought to know before we go to a meeting.
We can make the motion that he be our second
Right.
candidate,
You certainly could.
and I will put that out on the floor, that should our first candidate not accept our proposal, that our second candidate be,
Randall.
Randall. So I'll make that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, all in favor? Aye. So,
I don't get to say aye.
so it has been voted 3-0 that,
Said too much already.
any,
They're all sitting on.
it's unanimous, 3-0, I don't have to go down any other roads on the vote, that should, our first choice, decline the negotiation and the offer, that we go to our second choice to make the offer.
So, and I think
I
these
think
can
that's
be,
very
Dan,
fair.
this can be mailed, correct?
Well, let me say this.
First
Read
class.
the charter, first of all. I think you have 6 votes here.
May I say something?
6 people here, you've already, let me finish this question. You've already notified them, you're gonna meet at 7 o'clock. They're all here. I don't think you have to mail.
But I thought you just said it had to be in writing.
I
It does, I
think
accept it as if.
It probably does,
We go
at
that
least
way.
to the candidates who aren't here. But I
The
read,
candidates weren't here. I think.
the candidates, I mean.
If this is what
Counselor.
you're going to say, then you need to make the decision now to
Oh, yeah.
tell us that,
No, that's my intention, but I'm just curious.
All right.
I have a charter in front of me, but it says, thought it said letter in hand, either hand it to them or mail to them.
Because Monday is 48 hours, so if I stick in the mail tomorrow, that is plenty of time to assume they will have received their mail by
If
Monday.
you put it in the East Hampton slot
Right,
at
what,
yeah, yeah,
5
yeah.
o'clock,
what
they get
time
it
are
the
you
same day.
talking?
Huh?
They don't do that anymore.
What,
Oh, no?
It's
Dan,
not, but I think they just throw it.
what time, 7 o'clock?
Dan, what's your agenda? Is it pretty, you don't have, it's not
No.
gonna
Two
go-
items, half hour at the
6:30,
max.
but
Probably less,
ordinance
probably
says-
15 minutes.
I can scribble something on a paper.
We have to go over the ordinance with all of the fire department changes. I have no idea how long that takes.
And what time is it
I
supposed
think
to
it's
start?
6, isn't it start at 6?
6.
Yeah.
Well, do it at 7, Joe.
Why don't we
Give them
do
an
it at
hour.
7?
Okay, 7. I mean, I don't, that's all right, Mel, because I can just write a form letter and write people's names. You want to recess? Yeah, sure. Oh, go back to
I'm
Jordan.
asking.
I would love that.
Yeah,
Because I would like to continue. I'd like to-
motion to put ourselves into recess for, I'm giving everybody 5 minutes to go do whatever it is that they need to do. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Please turn the recorder off. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Hey, and I just talked.
We are back in session. It is, it's 5:09. We're back in session per the request of Counselor Krasinski. Just FYI, the vote has been taken about the candidates, so,
First and second.
yep, so whatever it is,
I think we were very close in the assessment of the 2 candidates, and I think the probationary period will really tell us what the scoop is. So I don't think we have to have a meeting next week.
You're willing to say now that you'd vote for Lori at the meeting? So if they offer the
Oh, but-
job.
well, we can't do the
That's the
full
problem.
vote. That's not the
No,
problem.
You're
The
saying
problem
we
is
can't offer her a vote
to-
unless we,
right, we
as a
can't
council,
offer-
approve it.
Until, so.
No. I think the point is,
With
well, no matter what, this is out there that she has an appointment. If the council had consensus and you offer her the position, then there's no risk involved.
Correct.
That's the point that I think we're okay with. My point is, and I think Jack was clear on that we still have the probationary period and we can We can't. We've done this in the past as precedent. We did it with Melissa and we did it with Valerie. So we can offer the position, negotiate, and see what happens, and on the 8th, it's just a formality.
But I thought you changed it.
I was
too.
saying that because of the position of
Well-
these two candidates.
Three, no,
We
three.
didn't have five.
No, there was-
We didn't have 5 votes in the room, and we don't know. You're saying we have 5 votes given Nathan's comments, but, you know,
I'm
saying we have-
gonna throw my towel in on this. Most of us are gonna be here on the 24th. I think we should go ahead with,
but that delays it another week, and what we're trying to do is give this...
it's not a week, though.
Well, okay.
There's
She said
no
it's on
office
hold.
hours
Sure, today's
tomorrow. We
Thursday.
have Saturday, Sunday. It's Monday, Tuesday. We do the appointment on Wednesday. As the president has suggested, we make the official appointment. We have time to do it. I firmly believe, and I strongly believe, that what the president's proposal is what we should
Well,
do.
he's only doing it because I suggested we have...
No, but I think it is neater
And I
and
think
cleaner.
it's a
just
good
to-
suggestion.
It is, I agree.
I think it's a good
I agree,
suggestion, and-
but our original intent was to see if we had enough consensus in the
Right.
room, and now we do. So we could do the other way, because there's precedent for it. It's not like we're not gonna, but we're not deliberating tonight, that's true, so we
Right,
can...
we're not. So it's up to you.
Yeah, because
You
so
are,
my
obviously-
opinion is, since so many people are going to be in this building next Wednesday,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna call the special meeting for 7 o'clock.
7 PM.
So you'll all get your letter in the mail.
Okay.
Come back from the Cape, Dan.
All right, so I will entertain a motion to close this appointment subcommittee meeting at 9 o'clock.
It won't take too long, I'll be home at 8.
So moved.
Thank you all for your
Second,
service. I
all in
appreciate
favor?
it.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, could you please turn that
As
off?
for the availability of the room,
Yeah.
finances in it.
Yeah, we're done.
Finance has the room from 6 to
6 to
6:30.
6:30.
But we're gonna, you'll have it upstairs.
See, I love my charter.
Down here.
No, it's fine, it's fine.
I like it.
So Jane,
So you'll do it here?